Morning, everyone. It's 9 o'clock straight up. If you'll stand with me, we'll start with a pledge prayer and a pledge of allegiance. Dear Heavenly Father, we praise your name and we thank you for this new day. We thank you for the rain that you've sent us. Thank you for protecting our community from the ice last few weeks. We just start off this meeting, turn it over to you, Lord. Ask that you would preside here, that you would guide and direct every speaker, every action that is taken, that it would be for the betterment of this community. Lord, we just trust you in every way. Again, we thank you for today and for those that have traveled to be at this meeting. Please bless everyone in this room, take them home safely. Lord, we pray for our servicemen and women wherever they are. Watch over them, protect them, and ultimately bring them home safely. We ask it all in the name of Jesus, our Savior. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Once again, welcome everyone. We appreciate you being here. Today is the 9th of March, 2015. It's 9 a.m. and this will be our first meeting of the month, or what we can refer to as our regular meeting. And I'll begin with item number 1, public comments and or requests for information on non-agenda items in accordance with section 551.042 of the Open Meetings Act. Have I got any speakers that have asked to speak? I've got one here. Anybody, any others? Just the one? All right, Joe and Pam Newman. The Newmans here. There's Mr. Newman. Come on up to the podium, Mr. Newman. Your floor is yours. Don't be nervous. We're real easy.
But our issue is we live right off 1735, and our issue is the last piece of the loop that isn't finished right now, and that's what split our land, and it goes from Union Hill to 1735, and the issue is the runoff from the road is filled our pond full of silt, and I don't know if y'all want to see these pictures or not. Sure. But I broke these out. I have like movies of it as well. That's what they got this. And this is the state report. I don't know if y'all want to look at it as well. This is where they find the company. Finding them didn't resolve our issue.
Go ahead.
I mean, we don't know what else to do. We're not looking for, for money or anything. We just want them to leave it like how they found it. And they haven't done that at all. And especially before they, before they pick up and move all their stuff. They want to fix it right. So, I mean, we don't know what else to do outside of one to get an attorney. So, something's in your hands. Mr. Hockley, before he retired, he was supposed to come out and look at it. Is that right? I guess he didn't get a chance.
Did you come out and look at it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I did.
So,
I looked at it, and I talked to Bobby Dick with PTP, and he said that they had cleaned some, but it's still looked like it.
The whole thing is full of silt. I mean, the whole pond, just the part you see, that's the most damning piece of it. But I mean, it washed all the way down, into the pond, on the other side. And I have multiple videos, as evidence as well. And one of them, if I can see that picture right here. So, probably about 200 yards from where this pond sits, like here's the road, here's our pond, and our house is right here, and there's a creek that splits the land. So we have multiple videos as well when it was raining of the dirt just completely washing all the way across the land into the creek as well. So, I mean, it's bad, y'all. Everybody that drives by there, hey, what, they always discuss, like, the shape that our pond is in. And I'm sure we're not the first people to complain, but we're the worst ones. We got left with the worst of it, the absolute worst of it, from where that road is and where it sits and where that pond is. So, I mean, again, we don't know what else to do.
Okay.
I mean, I want them to make it right, and if they don't, then, we will go get an attorney.
Okay. I had heard about this. I've not seen it myself, so I don't know any of the details about it. But I did ask for PTP to bring someone with them that knows about this. So their environmental officer is here. If y'all would like to hear from him at this time, I'll get Terry to come up and speak if you want to address this at a different time. But we've got everybody here, and I don't know that we'll get anything resolved today. But I would like to hear his side of this. And you made mention here that they were fined on this. Is that what this document shows?
Yes.
Okay. Do you happen to know, did they finally sign off on this and say the problem was fixed? Do you know what TCEQ's attitude is toward this situation right now?
Is, they come out, dug a few scoops out of it, and then just, picked up and left. Goes up there and gone.
You're talking about TCEQ.
Whoever the company is, what's the company?
Are you talking about the state?
I'm talking about, the state.
She signed off on the silk fence that when they corrected and repaired that, but she said as far as the pond, she could not make a judgment call on that. She said to either try to resolve it with the company or hire an attorney, one of the two.
Okay.
And I have some more pictures again. I mean, I broke that out of like a movie. I just converted them into like pictures. But I mean, they didn't even have the fence up for a good long while they were doing that road, and they finally broke down and did that after we started complaining. So you can just imagine, you can see what ran over or what was in there before.
Okay.
The fence wasn't even up there for, to begin with, after multiple rains and everything else, and it didn't have anywhere to go but down that road, across our land, and into our pond. So, I mean, it used to be, you go out there and throw like a 20-foot catch fish, and, it was clear water. Now it's just murky, can't see anything, it's a mess.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I don't know if y'all want to see these videos or not, but I mean, I have them, so I mean, I have pretty much everything.
All right,
Back
good.
us up.
Thank you.
So,
Terry, do you want to tell me when you're ready, if you want to address this at this time? And if you'll introduce yourself for the benefit of folks that are here that may not know you.
My name is Terry Plucker. I'm the Director of Environmental Services and Transportation. I am a registered professional geoscientist in soil science as opposed to geology, so soils are my area of expertise. I noticed in looking at these pictures, these are old pictures, these are prior to the improvements that were put in place this last summer. You look at the silt fence and they're marked 22614. So this is prior to us putting in a much larger rock filter dam at that location that completely encompasses the south wall. Prior to the contractor going in and doing silt removal from within their pond area, and it was specifically within the tail of the waters. Let me get these back to court. Judge, I know you already have a copy of this in your file because this is addressed to you by TCEQ. This is dated October 31st, 2014. It's in reference to the violation with silt leaving the right-of-way. Because of how the Clean Water Act is worded, because the county controls plans and specifications and compliance, the county holds the permit for the project. So the violation was issued to the county, not to the contractor. There were no fines levied, and this letter on October 31st, you can read it says that everything was resolved according to TCQ. Part of that included a letter from James Construction Group to Lisa Fisher with TCQ, specifically stating what was done, how they determined that the silt had been removed to TCQ by the contractor. I'm going to submit both of those as well. I also have here a number of aerial photographs of this pond, both before and after and during construction. These first photographs are taken from Google Earth. The date of the image is on the bottom. They started in 1995, going through 2012. This last photo is the 2014 NAEP imagery. That's from the USDA. It shows the roadway, shows the grass that was out there. These photos were taken last July and August. This was before TCQ came out, and also shows the condition of the dam at that time. I drove through the project yesterday when I first got into town last night. It was raining. I didn't get a chance to grab some soil samples. Otherwise, I would have had a little bit of a demonstration to show you how little clay it takes to make something turn red. But driving up here, I noticed every creek, every stream I crossed was running red. If you've lived up in this part of Texas for long enough, you know. When you get rains, the streams tend to run red. That's just, unfortunately, the nature of the beast when you have the rainfall up there. This is a Keck sand shape. What we use to determine the sand, silt, and clay particles in the soil. It gets half of the equation. The streams that are in here separate the ASTM categories of sand. So, if I had a soil sample and you stood there shaking it, everything from here up is sand. Everything past this last stream, I'm going to hand this to the court to look at how fine this last stream is what silt and sand. Now, the definition of silt is it will settle out in quiet water within 30 minutes. Now, in order to get it to settle out within 30 minutes, we have to have some type of detention time. Unfortunately, we have a very limited right-of-way. You can see in those pictures, the right-of-way lines are imposed on those pictures, so you can see how tight it is between those two dams. The clay, on the other hand, may stay suspended for days. The clay has a charge to it, so that's what helps keep it in suspension. The only way that you can get that, force that to get out, is that you have to have detention again, but you may have to add something to get it to kind of clump together. And the problem with that is if we use polyacrylamide, it would kill every fish in the pond because we're just too close to the pond. We could use Titus sand, but both are expensive options. And like I said, if you look at the right-of-way, there's no place to put detention. The only way to have done it would have been to purchase additional land and build a detention pond, essentially between their pond and the roadway and in the tailwaters, which is the areas that were re-excavated by the contractor. And that wasn't feasible, and plus that would have been another additional plan taken by the state.
Terry, in your opinion, have we left this pond, and are we going to leave this pond in worse shape than before the project?
Anytime you've got a roadway project or any type of urban disturbing activity, you're always going to end up with some of those clay particles leaving the sun. And I do think that, yes, there is probably going to be some deposition of those clay. But like I said, it doesn't take much clay to make that turn red. So I have a hard time looking at those aerial photographs where I'm seeing wetland vegetation already forming, and that wetland vegetation is only going to form if it's a foot or less of water. And so where you're seeing that wetland vegetation in the tail of that dam, that means there was already only 1 foot of depth at that time. And you can see, especially during the drought years, I believe it was 2005 is the aerial photograph, how much smaller that dam was. So that gives you an idea how much shallow space there was at that time. It's really hard to quantify it, and keep in mind that if we go in and start dredging the pond, we run the risk of killing all of the aquatic vegetation to dredge that additional area. And so it's a case of which does least harm. And at this point, to go in and dredge the entire pond, it would take probably 3 years for that pond to be back to a healthy ecosystem again to be able to support fish. If we dredge. And at this point, I think it's still probably will support fish activity because the vegetation is there. And that vegetation will actually help settle the part.
Okay. You have any questions for Terry?
Yeah, this last picture here don't have a date on it or anything,
Yes.
and all those others showed it red or clear. I don't know which one it was, and this one shows to be sandy. This one, that doesn't have a date on it. This is the last one in that stack that you gave to
Right.
me.
And that's a July 2014 photograph. A number of things can stir up the sediment in the pond, especially if it's shallow. Wind action can stir up sediment, some can be runoff. Like I said, clay particles, it doesn't take much to obscure the water and make it turn red. So not knowing the specific date and what the weather was on that specific date, I can't tell you more than that. All I know is that particular flight was flown between in July and August of last year.
Well, it looks like sand this time went in there. That is not red. It's not clay. It looks like that sand that he showed in the photo.
So to me, it looks green, which could be an algae bloom as well. But I would have to look at other dams in the same area photograph, in the same name imagery, in the same date. And I have my computer out of the car and certainly will pull that up. I think we have internet access because that's pulled off the internet map.
I appreciate it. Mr. Newman,
Yes,
I'm just curious what you think would satisfy you, because I don't know if you're talking about silt removal or water treatment or
Well, I would like to.
if you wouldn't mind, come up here because we got this recorded and it won't record your voice there without being by the mic.
Well, listen to this gentleman. The issue is not resolved. As you can see, you can drive out, right there, right now and see it. And as he was mentioning, about the rain and the red dirt, if you want to see red dirt, you can come out there today just with the little rain that we had and see like the runoff on it. But before that, it was just, yeah. And I also have a problem with the pictures that he's shown as well, because those are from Google Earth, and those are not dynamic. They only change those like, I think just right now that they're updated. And the silt dam was not built initially. It was wide open like Wild Wild West, which were running off.
But what in your opinion would resolve the problem? Is it even possible to resolve the problem?
I don't know.
So you don't have an opinion as to what you're asking for?
Well, I'd like it dug out.
That's what I'm getting at. Do you want us to come in and dig it out? If we said we'll do whatever you want, not that we're saying that, I'm just curious, what do you think the fix is?
Possibly digging it out.
If the silt dam that they have now, is it sufficient? Has it stopped the runoff?
I don't think all of them know. He's talking about, that pond was never, before that loop came in there, it didn't matter how hard it rained, it never changed colors, never. And right now, it's never changed, it hasn't changed back. We're not talking about just some silt runoff like in that picture, we're talking about yards and yards and yards. Still now, it's still running off there.
He said it'd take 3 years for it to get clear again if we got in there and dug it out. Would that fix it? Would that be sufficient?
I don't think clear is being an issue. It's full of, it's full, I guarantee it's full of, it's full of silt right now.
So it's a volume of silt in your pond that is the problem. It's not what color it is, or...
All across my land, in the creek that goes around there again. I mean, one of the most damning videos that I have is the runoff after it rained running across the land, and you can see, I mean, like he was saying, red dirt. Well, yeah, I mean, the whole creek was red. So, I mean, there's silt in my creek as well.
And
We're not making this stuff up.
I believe you. And it doesn't sound like you've had anybody come and advise you on what should be done. And so, final time, I'll ask you, do you know or do you not know, or would you like to have somebody come and assist you in telling you, here's what needs to be done? In other words, if you don't know, I don't know what needs to be done.
Sure.
Well,
I mean, as long as
No,
it's
ma'am.
not those guys, 'cause, I mean, we feel like we got rolled, is what we feel like. I mean, 'cause we're not road people or know about excavation or, you know, and it wouldn't be for my cousin coming out and taking all those videos during construction and then after and everything else. We probably would have really known how bad it was.
Right.
We had 2 excavators come out and look
Okay.
at it. Their suggestion is the pond is to be drained and dug out properly. That was their suggestion, both of them. One of them was John Stevenson, he came out and looked at it, the other was back in May. They both came out and looked at it, and that was their suggestion to fix the problem. And there's obviously, where they dug out, yes, they came and dug out. We expected when they said they were gonna come dig out, that they were gonna dig out the whole pond. Yes, there's growth, there's been growth, we knew that. That's not the issue. The issue is down underneath, where it's deep, where you can't see the growth. And both of them looked at it and said there's no way. From the amount of silt that came into that pond over the course of time, it has filled the bottom of that pond. And nobody can say how much at this point, unless you drain the pool first. And then dig
Right.
out and take care of it from there.
Okay. Well, we obviously don't know what to do at this point. We're interested in getting some more information. I appreciate you coming here, but since this is not an agenda item, I am going to ask the commissioners to decide, what we want to do from here. Commissioner Riddle, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I have stock ponds that my cows drink. Every 10 years, they silt in naturally. So if you had this construction going on, they would have done it a heck of a lot quicker. And they have to be dug out just exactly like the lady says, and I don't see any other solution. But I'd make sure that the dam was sufficient to stop the runoff before it got dug out. But that's the only solution there is.
You think it's too early to be doing if we were to arrive at a decision to dig that out, do you think we need to wait until the project is completed before we do that?
I make sure, that silt down, the rocks they put in there, he says it's not holding. It's going to run as long until grass grows on that stuff. It's still going to run. But I mean, like I said, about every 10 years, I got to dig out my ponds. They get too shallow. They're 4 foot, 6 foot, and they're 2 foot after 10 years.
Mr. Plucker, one final comment, and we've got to move on, but we will discuss this some more. Mr. Newman and Ms. Newman, thank you for coming and making your presentation.
A lot more, we have like movies of it, more pictures, I can bring all that stuff up.
I'm not sure it would help a guy like me to make a decision. I just don't know, but I promise you I'll do some more thinking about this, and I will ask these guys what they would like to do, and this may or may not be a future agenda item, but let us have some more time to consider this, okay? And talk with PTP, okay? Any final words?
Like I said when I looked at the photos, after that time we did have a contractor, after the time the photos were taken, we did have a contractor put some additional practices in place. I can certainly go out there and look and see if we need to put additional practices up the slope a little bit further. We have asked them to the dam grade and outfall coming out of Mr. Denman's pond, which is the pond on the other side of the road, was redone. We have asked improvement, but it is affecting our right of way, so we've asked them to armor our right of way a little bit at their expense. But I can certainly go out, probably tomorrow, when we're not supposed to have any rain, and look at it and see if we need to put some additional practices upslope from that. At the moment, they have regraded that area, regraded that ditch, so where we had vegetation in there, that should have cut back quite a bit on the current sediment. They need to get in there and see it. Unfortunately, they regraded it, and then we had a snowstorm, followed by some rains, followed by more rains, so they haven't had a chance to get on those slopes.
Right.
Those slopes, they've got to get active on them to see them. I don't want to tear them up by driving a tractor on something that's too wet, so we may have to have some accuracy there.
Okay. After you look at that, would you let me know something so I can share with these guys, or we'll bring you back at the next Commissioners Court meeting and let you tell us, you know, what you found out there, and in the meantime, make adjustments if necessary. Okay. Thank you.
I've got a question, Judge.
Okay.
Do we think that the possibility of a lot of that silt got in there before the fence was put up? What's the,
I would need to go through our SW3P plan sheets, because we document the dates that everything was done on the project for that. I do know that from the very start, we were telling the contractor, you need to get these ditches cut, get them finalized, get them seeded. One of the first things that we had to do on the project was go from one end of the job, clear to the other end, put silt fence in the locations that the plans called for along that right of way line. Now, part of the problem was all that was originally put at that location wasn't silt fence, because it took them a while to get that ditch cut and then get the culvert put in place that's there. So I would need to check and see when the original rock filter dam went in. I can see that the silt fence that was put in the picture wasn't put in until last February, but I need to check and see if that was silt fence that was replaced. In other words, did we have silt fence in there prior to that? And I can check that in the plan as well.
okay.
Thank you very much. Item number 2, consider and possibly approve minutes from the February 23rd special meeting of the Commissioners Court.
Judge, I'd like to make a motion we approve minutes.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton.
Second.
And second by Commissioner Parker to approve those minutes of our last our special meeting, second meeting of the month of February. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item number 3, consider and possibly approve cooperating with the City of Mount Pleasant on their application for a grant to upgrade their radio communication system. Welcome, Chief Isbell.
Morning. For those that don't know me, my name is Wayne Isbell, Chief of Police from Mount Pleasant. Today I'm asking the court to approve funding a project. We currently have radio issues, mainly in the south part of town. The city has grown, but we've had these problems for quite some time. We have one radio tower right now with an antenna on it for our channel 1, which is our primary channel. Our channel 2 is virtually non-operable, and we have another solution that we're currently working on to fix that problem. Channel 1, when it comes to our portable radio, we've done some testing. We've contracted with the communications to come in and to evaluate our system and to come up with a solution to fix our radio problem. Our portables are virtually non-functional in the south part of town, especially down by the airport, and all the way down to the bottom of the street. We have a lot of staff around Walmart. So the NW Communications came in with a solution, and they recommend installing a secondary channel 1 antenna on the tower, the water tower, around School Street. And they've installed a voting system. And when we key up our radio voting system, depending on where we're at, the two towers will talk to each other and it would decide which tower would be transmitting our signal and improve our radio communication for the forward. We don't have a big issue with the cars. Again, it's primarily the portable down foot, shape foot, the safety. We came up with this solution for geotech communication. So we applied for a grant through our COG. And COG recently voted making us a priority to fix this. But the way Larry reports our FEMA training, we have to go through the county to get the funding approved. So we're asking the county commissioners to fund the project, and you would be reimbursed from the grant if it's approved, and from the city of Mount Pleasant. So it would be a zero cost out of the pocket from the county, but we would ask that you fund it, then you would be reimbursed for it. And Larry can explain just on the information of why we have to go through the county.
The total cost of the project was right at $70,000, is that right? That's the full cost of the project. That's not necessarily how much you'll be given if you're awarded grant.
Right, we're still waiting on COG. The COG recommended $41,344.
And last week, or 2 weeks ago, I reported to the commissioners, your best guess was about $20,000. So we were pleased to see that they came back and they did give you the lion's share of that grant. So if you can get $40,000 back on your $70,000, that's better than expected.
And of course, the city will maintain the equipment. We bought our first year warranty contract with the equipment as well. And we'll continue to maintain the equipment. But technically, the equipment will belong to the county, to the grant.
And the county would actually write the check in the full amount, and then by grant proceeds or with city funds, you would reimburse the county for that full amount of $71,000. Carl had brought up a question that I asked you last week. If this is technically owned by the county, who's going to be responsible for insuring this? All right. Does anyone want to hear an explanation from Chief McCrae as to the mechanics of how the funding goes and why we're being asked to write that check?
Who did you say? COG.
Our council of government.
Architects Council of Government.
Council of government. Yes.
And explain to them what this grant is bigger than just this one individual component. The grant money is spread out over all the participating counties.
There's many counties involved in the grant process, and there's only so many dollars that we anticipate getting. So we put in our grant submissions to our council of government. Then we have the council of government has a vote on it, and when we have the vote, we come in and do a presentation on why we need this money here in Titus County, as with all the other entities coming in and saying why they need the money. And then they whittle down on how much money you're going to get, simply because there's not enough money to go around. One project alone, they wanted $270,000, and it just isn't that much money available. So we're very fortunate that the council of government recognized that we have a need, and we've not had any funding, Homeland Security or Homeland funding, in quite a while. So we were approved to be high on the list to get this fixed.
All right, any other questions?
Judge, I don't have any problem with it. I think this is a good project, and the finances looks like it's going to take care of itself there. So, and it definitely will be a safety issue that's very important, and I'll make that motion to do this.
Okay, I've got a motion by Commissioner Fields to work with the city by participating in the grant application project and also agreeing to initially fund the project with county funds, knowing that we'll be reimbursed. So I have a motion.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Riddle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, Chief Isbell. Appreciate it. Item number 4, presentation by Chief Larry McCrae. Chief, thank you for being here. I've had an opportunity to visit with Chief, and some of his guys about this project that I think will be enlightening to you, not necessarily good news, but something that we all need to know about.
What I want to talk to y'all this morning about was volunteer fire service. Over the last year or so, we, the volunteer fire department in Mount Pleasant, have tried to get volunteer firefighters for our department. And we've done a variety of things. The type of people we're looking for, what we're asking our volunteers to do is, one, they have to attend numerous hours of training, get trained to do the job. We're asking to look for people that are willing to go into a structure fire, put the fire out, save somebody's life, respond to vehicle fires, respond to grass fires that might last a few minutes or a few hours, motor vehicle accidents where we extricate people who are treated for their injuries, be exposed to contagious diseases whenever they're responding to EMS calls, provide first aid, use their personal vehicles to pay for the cost of fuel to go to the calls, replace their clothing that's damaged while they're making the calls. And we're asking them to do it any time of the day or night, 7 days a week. Any kind of weather, like today, under potentially stressful, dangerous, and emotional circumstances. And all we're asking them to do this for a little bit of pay. And so finding people that are willing to do that is getting to become harder and harder. And it's not just a local problem. If you look across the state, across the nation, volunteerism in general is not what it used to be, say, 10 years ago. Whether it's in volunteer fire service or churches or schools or city clubs, that volunteerism is just not there anymore. Some of the things that we've done to try to recruit volunteers, we put stuff in the newspaper, we've done on the radio, we've done social media. We bought an ad at a movie theater for about 6 months, talking to people in the community, advertising at the fundraisers that the departments have, anything to try to get the word out that we need volunteers. And one of the number one problems that we run into when we are trying to recruit is time. They don't have time to come to meetings, time to get the training, time to respond to calls. Time is pretty much one of the biggest deterrents of keeping people from volunteering this day and time. Also, to get on the department, it's not just you vote them in, there they are. We do background checks, we do driver's checks, driver's record checks, drug screens, physical, and even when we are getting volunteers to apply for the departments, the majority, a large percentage of those can't pass the drug screen, background check, or the driver's record. So even when we get that, we don't. A lot of those don't pass muster, get on the departments. Training, obviously, volunteer firefighters have to have training, just like anybody else that's going to do a job. You don't just put somebody out there without training. The applicants kind of decide what they want to do in the fire department. Everybody doesn't have to be a structural firefighter or go in a burning building if they don't want to. We can train them to do whatever they want to do. If they just want to fight grass fires, we can train them for that. If they want to go drive the trucks for the volunteer department, we can do that. But the state does not require volunteer firefighters to have any training at all. In fact, there's legislation right now in the session that's in there making a law where volunteers can be regulated by state agency requirements. The state does require paid firefighters to have training. We're regulated by state agency that requires us to. Basically, anybody that volunteers for law enforcement or EMS does not have the option. They have to have the same training as a police officer or paramedic or whatever, whoever they can basically deny. Our fire department, Mount Pleasant Department, provides the training free of charge to all our volunteers. We don't charge anything for it. We've got instructors that stay certified that's able to provide the training. But again, it just goes back to the volunteers that have got to have spend the time to get this training. If you look at put y'all together packages and stuff there, if you look at tab number 1, that shows our department members divided by their departments and showing what their training is. if it's an orange block out there with a name, that's training that is still needed by that individual for that. If you look at tab 7, that kind of gives you an idea as the SOP for our department on volunteer fire training. And some of the departments in the county have adopted that as well. Again, we're needing to recruit people that have the time to dedicate this training. If you look at tab number 2, it shows that the list of firefighters in Titus County, when you show to have 82, and that's kind of a misleading number. Some of those are not, they don't respond to fires, they just respond to EMS calls. And the one thing to point out that tab actually is showing you is the type of jobs that our volunteer firefighters have that are currently on the department. And you notice that most of those are during the daytime. And that's when we have the majority of our calls. I'll talk to you about that a little more in a minute. If you look at tab 3, that's the information on the runs in the past 5 years for just the county, not even the city college, just the county college divided up. And then tab 4 shows you the instance broken up by the different county departments that we respond to with those volunteer fire departments. And you can see there's quite a few, there's about 1,800 calls in that 5-year period. Tab number 4 also shows you down at the bottom the calls that Mount Pleasant Fire Department, in addition to the ones we're going out to the county with, shows you what we're having to handle inside the city limits as well. And tab 5 shows you how the fires line up during the daytime. You can see that the vast majority of our calls are between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. About 75% of all of our calls are there. So again, even though we may have 82 people on the department, getting somebody to turn out during the daytime when we're having our calls is a problem. Tab 6 is something that is data that we've been keeping up with since back in November. They give you an idea of what kind of calls we're going to, when they're occurring, who's showing up, how much equipment. And whenever we have a call, you never know who's going to show up. As you can see in some of those, we've had on occasion some departments that are not able to respond for whatever reason. Whenever we don't have enough people to show up on a call, obviously that's going to impact our ability to provide the service. Some of the tasks that might need to be done at the same time have to be done sequentially instead of simultaneously, or sometimes not at all. And this can affect our operations in a negative aspect, and it's also a safety issue. We don't have enough people there to do the job. When we don't have enough volunteer fire departments to put more work on the guys that we send out from our department, especially for structure fire. The contract is required between the city and the county, only requires the city to send 2 trucks and 2 people. We send an average of 4 to 6 on-duty people to a call, plus our off-duty, plus our volunteers, and 3 to 6 pieces of equipment. And if we didn't do that, especially for structure fire, we wouldn't have enough people there. The truck was trained to put the fire out. And of the 82 volunteer firefighters right now, there's only 23 that have structural fire training. And some of those have said pretty much they've got it, but it's a last resort. They're not. They would go in if they had to, but nobody else would do it. When we go to structure fire, there's a state law for career firefighters, for paid firefighters. So we have to have 2 in, 2 out. I mean, if we send 2 people into a structure that's on fire, we have to have at least 2 people on the outside in case something goes wrong with the 2 in. So again, if we don't send 2 people on structure fire from the city, we'd be violating the state law to try to go into structure fire. And there's always a possibility that we're not able to respond if we're tied up in the city or tied up on another call. There's a possibility we can't respond to structure fire or any fire in the volunteer department to be dependent on the state care. In general, the fire service in Titus County is ready. information from the board person I got a couple weeks ago that provides information over the last 5 years statewide. And it lists 22 fire departments that closed the door for various reasons, not enough money, not enough people. That also includes one of our departments that closed up as well. You also see there's a lot of departments that consolidate, all together to try to make things work. When I said our department was fragile, we've lost one department already. One of our departments that used to be really robust and could get during the daytime even a lot of trucks out, 2 to 3 trucks, 8 or 9 people. And now that department over the last 1 or 2 years has come to the point where they're just barely able to run. Again, by just a few changes in those in that department. If a volunteer fire department ceases operations, in case of Winfield, they can knock out their ISO rating yet, which affects your homeowner's insurance. But all our other departments, with the exception of 5-star, they're working through, have gotten an ISO rating so the homeowner's insurance was lowered as a result of that. If those departments cease to exist or cease to function, obviously their insurance rates of those folks that are in those districts is going to go back up and could be what they were paying previously. If the department ceases operation, then obviously it's going to put more burden on the other volunteer fire departments and the Mount Pleasant fire department. So basically, this trend continues to build the volunteer fire departments to provide effective fire service in the county is not going to be possible.
And as we discussed the other, why don't you introduce the guys that you brought with you today?
Just another guy, introduce that, Jerry Clark from Sugar Hill, Jerry Ward with Triley, Brad Knight with Nortec, and Kurt Brown with IStar.
Thanks, guys, for coming here today. As we discussed the other day, this presentation is not about asking for more money. It's not about, you're not even really asking for something from the commissioners at this point, because as you and I discussed, if we doubled or tripled the amount of money that we pay to our volunteer fire departments, that's not necessarily the fix. You're simply sharing with the Commissioners Court as well as the residents of Titus County a problem that we're dealing with. Where it's going to go down the road, we don't know. The other day I asked you, where do you see things in 5 or 10 years? How have other communities dealt with this problem? And you've told me some of those ways, and I've seen that as I look at other taxing rates and other entities. I see these entities that are created, these emergency districts. Why don't you tell us a little bit about where you see things going, not that you necessarily have a fix, but how have other communities dealt with this?
Some of the other communities are actually having to hire part-time firefighters during the day. I know we've got 1 or 2 of our paid guys that do in other counties south of here that work for volunteer fire departments during the daytime. They actually pay firemen to be there 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. The rest of the time they're volunteers. Across the state, there are other departments that are actually hiring full-time firemen, not just part-time, even part-time. They actually turning into a combination department where at one time they were all volunteers, and now they're having to hire paid firemen to be there to make the call, especially if they're running EMS, because we have to provide EMS out of the fire department, that's an increase in call dramatically. And a lot of volunteer fire departments just can't keep up to work with. Emergency service districts are allowed in Texas, which is a taxing district. People in the county would actually have to go in to allow the levy to be placed on the property taxes by emergency service.
Well, and of course the other alternative is to make sure that residents in the county understand we're sorry we're not able to provide the level of fire protection that we once were, and you are significantly more vulnerable. And that impacts that resident by that ISO rating. They pay more for their insurance. So where is all this going? You don't know, I don't know, but I appreciate you thinking that this was important enough to tell us about it and to tell this community about this. Does anybody have a question or a comment for Chief while he's here?
No, it's a question. You pay more insurance or you pay more taxes? Pretty simple.
Or we get more volunteers?
Yeah, we get a lot more volunteers who are willing to be volunteer firefighters and trained to the job. When you said money, when money is asked for volunteers, to theoretically possible,
Well, I do know other counties that surround us, as far as the county stepping up and helping out. We're one of the few counties in this area that does this, and I appreciate our volunteers. I appreciate everything they do, because our residents in this county are much better off having these volunteer fire departments than not.
Anything else? Okay. Okay. Yeah, would you step up to the mic?
My name is Kay Holloway. I live on the edge of Titus, just close to North. I've lived here for 4 years and retired from Denver. There's not a month goes by that we don't drive around and see something burned to the ground. It can be next to the Isbell Country Club. There'll be a $400,000 home. Another time there'll be a $20,000 mobile home where 2 people pass away, but children are saved. Fire protection to me seems to be a basic service the government should present to the citizens. And I don't mind myself going out to Morris and Titus and encouraging, maybe it goes before we vote on it, but just to say, oh gee, we just can't put any money towards it. I can put money towards it, because if I don't, I won't have any insurance. I don't even have a home. I just see it as a basic service. And in Casa, which is my closest volunteer fire department, they just bulked up again. But again, those people, the volunteers come and go, so I never know at what point we have a full service. The first year I was there, lightning struck the past year next to us. It took us an hour and 45 minutes to get a truck there. And when the truck did come, we ended up with 8 trucks in various volunteer departments and that sort of thing. So I think you're going to find your voters in the rural area very interested in fire protection. And if you could join your neighbors, Morris, Camp, whatever, and do an area fire protection, I think that would be helpful. But it's not going to go away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Chief. Thank you to our volunteer firefighters that far too often go take granted. I understand why it's tough to get them. When I look at the list of things we're asking them to do, why would you want to sign up? It takes a special person, and I appreciate the fact that we've got some of those special people in this community that do still hang on and provide for us.
We're, Judge, very, very blessed to have the volunteer fire departments and these men right out here that do the legwork, and I'm very proud of them. I'm very proud of the things that's been accomplished through the years. And I believe it was 89 we started to volunteer. We had one volunteer fire department. Now we have 6, I believe, 5 or 6. We had one that did not have the volunteers. Tri-Lake stepped up to the plate, and I think Sugar Hill got involved in it. But anyway, some of that area was divided up. We had our fundraiser here last month. Really went well. people stepped up to the plate again, so. And by the way, we do have mutual aid agreements with other counties. We go help them, they come help us. So I think they just did that a few years back. Now you can go help each other where used to you couldn't. But we appreciate all that you do. Our insurance rates are much lower in this county than most counties because of our volunteer fire departments. So I have to-
Judge, I'd like to say that one way that the community can help is to talk it up and get people to come out and volunteer. That's one thing that would help us more than anything with our volunteer fire departments, is just get people to come out and help. And I know it's been a struggle, has been ever since I have been a member at Nortex ever since it was started, and that's always been a problem, is getting volunteers out. And if people would get out and talk about it, we might could get a few more volunteers, and that would help us more than anything.
Anything else? Thank you very much. We appreciate your taking time today. Gentlemen, you as well.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, item number 5, status report on Titus County pass-through projects. Mr. Heidecker from PTP, welcome.
Judge, Commissioners, good morning.
Good morning.
Just a little update on FM 1000. It's been a little bit since we've been here. Obviously, we had a little bit of rain, snow last couple of weeks, so we've not seen the progress we hoped for since our last update. But we're hoping the weather's going to clear a little bit, and we're going to get some dry conditions, and we're going to start making some headway here, because we're getting some crucial times, to say the least, of where we are on the FM 1000. Currently, we have paid James Construction Group. Titus County has $17,257,187.05. Total contracted construction price is $18,927,914.15. The original contracted time was 383 days. We were given them 87-day time extension and waived the LDs at this time, or total contracted extension with the extension days of 470 days through, that should be February 25th, not March. That is a typo on there. So before the rain hit, James Construction had a dirt crew out there. They were working on dressing up the slopes as well as some of the ditches and the header banks, getting ready for some of the seating area. The bridge crew has been out as well, placing rock riprap and some of the cross culverts. The signal crew folks have made some headway. They've got the signal poles placed, got the conduits in the ground, as well as the signal heads at 271, FM 2348, as well as 1735. There's also been some pipe crews out there placing some RCP on the remaining driveways. I think some residents were thinking maybe we forgot some of the driveways, but they are getting those wrapped up at this time. They've been also installing brick pavers on the islands at 271 and the FM 1000-4000 intersection right there in the medians. Also, Southwest Environmental, they were the ones placing the seed out around the ditches, once we've been reworking those and so forth. Haven't been out there as much as we probably like, but with the weather and so forth, hopefully it'll dry up when we get them back out there again. The seal coat crew, they're still on hold until May 1st. That's still weather dependent. Temperatures are going to need to be where they need to allow them to place. But James has stated that as of this month, they're going to start coming back, start reworking all the bays. We still need to get some testing done on the bays, because that was put off in the winter months and so forth, as well as they're going to have to do an IRI, which is a wide analysis to make sure the base is where it needs to be before the seal coat is placed at that time. I've also listed a few major items of work that are remaining on the contract. There's still a lot of little things that need to be done, a lot of rework. These are items that James is actually going to be paid for. One of the largest items left out there is prime coat, the seal coat, approximately $1,088,000 left on that as a change. All the signs still have to be done. We would allow James to not install any of the signs at this time and allow him to wait until after the seal coat was placed. There's about $43,000 left out there. There's still striping that cannot be done until the seal coat as well, a little bit over $123,000 left there. Headcount mobilization of $180,000. The signals, just to wrap that up, there'll be another $113,000 paid to James for that. And then we still have approximately $74,000 left in seeding at this time. Now, these are just major work items that we're considering. There's still some smaller things out there as well. There's a lot of rework items, ditches, a lot of road wraps, some of that stuff needs to be fixed. But, for the major things, this is what we're going to be looking at over the next, 2 to 3 months, with hopefully a completion date. James Construction's goal was May 15th. Maybe we don't make the May 15th, but we're trying everything we can to get it by June 1st for sure. So we do have James Construction here today. They're going to give a full presentation as well. But this is a good news for them to tell us when the crews are going to start getting up here. I know one of the things will probably be seen in the weather drives, but hopefully right after that, we'll get them here to be able to start moving ahead. Also, Mr. Terry Plucker, that you heard from earlier, our Director of Environmental PTP, he's confirmed that James Construction did install rock filter dams that were requested at FM 1735 portion of the project that was completed. And we've also filed the FAA obstruction evaluation closure on the bridge over the railroad there. Once the tenants have finally met its highest point there, so that was filed as well. Besides that, that's pretty much where we stand. We did get everything turned over on 271. All the documents were submitted to TxDOT. We did email the other day from the Atlanta District. There were a couple of electronic files on actually FM 2340. Sent those over to them. We haven't heard anything else. Have not got any response also on 271. So we're assuming that the Atlanta District is reviewing the paperwork, all the files submitted, and moving forward with that as well. Any questions we can answer regarding status on FM 1000 process?
All right. Carl, do you know if we got that second wire transfer last week? We got one. They were obviously breaking it up into two. We got the portion related to 2348. We, as of Friday, had not. And we knew it was going to be at least the 5th. Okay, let's move on to item number 6. Consider and possibly approve change order number 9 on this project, FM 4000. This will be a credit, but tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, Judge. Change order 9 for James Construction is a credit in the amount of $6,710.69. This is for additional items to allow for the mounting system and the conduit of the flashing signal head beacon located west of the FM 1000 and US 271 intersection. There are credits for bid quantities actually not being used. So when the full tally amount come up, there is a credit on the overall project of $6,710.69, which will bring the total construction price to $18,927,914.50. This has been sent to TxDOT as well for approval. James Construction has executed as well as PTP asking the court for approval of the judge's signature.
Any reason to think TxDOT will have a problem with that?
No, sir. This is all approved by TxDOT.
Any questions on this change order? Credit of $6,700. All right, need a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Fields, second by Commissioner Parker. All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item number 7, consider and possibly approve a request from PTP Transportation for an additional $649,000 to cover personnel and materials testing through June 2015.
Yes, sir, Judge. Approximately a year ago, we came back for a change order and gave a main utilization chart with a breakdown of what it would take to finish the remainder of the 3 Titus County pass-through projects. In doing that, we budgeted enough money we felt to get us through the FM 4000 project. I think we all understand that unfortunately FM 4000 did not progress as rapidly as we all hoped. And so with that, unfortunately, we're being asked now to budget more money to provide for material construction management, our inspectors on staff, our engineers, and so forth. The budget that we had done over a year ago was just to cover us through the end of 2014. We were able to stretch that through the months of January to get that. But as of this time, we have completed that budget. We submitted to the court another manual utilization chart showing the hours that we expect to use over the next coming months, which we feel will cover through the end of June. Now, with that being said, we'll finish the project in June, and we're not able to stretch the money as we did in the last change order. There is a possibility that this money may not be enough, depending on the status and the rapidness of James construction with the project. We feel that, with the crews that James has committed and said they're going to be bringing on the project, we feel that, getting it done in June is a possibility. I'm sure we'll hear from James here in a minute, but yes, they think this is something we can do. So, we feel we put what we believe to be reality out here. It may take a little more, it may take a little less. But, on average, we're looking at about $130,000 a month for the next several months, with the last month going about $110,000 with the project wrap up, turning it over to TxDOT. Like we said, it took us 71 days, I believe, to get TxDOT to accept 271. We've been explaining to James, we need to start doing some those items, so we're not looking at that to bring that project further. In saying that, May 15th is the big damage as far as what we can get on the construction. So if they're not completed by May 15th, then if there was any additional money that was needed after June, we could offset that with the liquidated damages. And the board is hoping for sure to get the project done by then, or if not, that money will be used elsewhere. But at this time, contingency is sitting just a little shy under $1 million right now. The proposal to move $648,982.12 as needed, and then that should leave a little over $330,000 left with whatever hundreds that we're going to have on the F1,000 project credited back to the contingency.
And once again, did they get a chance to visit with you about this, Commissioner Parker, since you hadn't been here to hear the history, what this entails? That this is not a bid, this is not a negotiated amount, this is an amount that was actually established back, when was that contract? 2010, 2011?
These are still the same hourly rates, 2011, we had no updates, so forth. So we held to those in the entire program.
Well, again, not the best news this morning, but I understand this situation. Commissioners, if you have any questions about this is the time to ask. And once again, you still have contingency money available for this, and you still will have some more after this. I sure hope we don't have to use any more than this.
For sure, Judge, and just so everybody aware, these budgets were set 7, 8, 10 years ago for this project. And we are still bound to bring this project in at the budget or under the budget from that time, even though some of the issues we've had in the bridge, the 4,000 project being delayed, the extra money needed to support PTP staying up here almost a year and a half longer than we ever anticipated. So we're doing everything we can. We're pushing the contractors as hard as we can. We're looking for some help with the weather right now. We know we're back out there. But it's going to be a push. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you everything's going to be rosy going out. It's going to take some time. There's a lot of work left to be done out there. But to get that, we need the manpower, we need the resources. PTP has the staff. We'll be here. James Construction puts an army of folks out there in the next week. We may use a little more than $130,000 a month. I don't know. This is what we've seen over the past several months. That's been our average. We're basing it off of that. To get the job done, we're going to get it done for that. But we also got to make sure that we meet the time frame and James is going to develop the resources.
All right. Commissioners, what would you like here?
Well, for us to get our reimbursement, and these contracts were negotiated several years back, if they did go over, and I make that motion to do so.
Motion by Commissioner Fields to approve this request for an additional $649,000 to cover materials and personnel through June 2015.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Hinton. All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Anything else? Well, I know you'll still be here. Maybe you'll have something else.
If anybody has any questions, we can discuss it. As far as, I guess, the silt fencing, and I'm sure we're going to hear from James Construction on that as well. At the end of the day, we're going to hold the contractor responsible there. It's their job to appropriate silt. If Terry finds that it is silt left the property, we have a contractor out there before. They were out there, they debugged it. TCQ was satisfied with what was done to that pond. No doubt, every day it rains, there's always some silt, some clay, some sediment. You can't contain 100% of it. But as Commissioner Riddle said, ponds do tend to silt over a certain amount of time. I think there's photography that kind of shows that it has been silted up. Probably the last time that pond's been cleaned out, 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's not all done to James Construction, but it is James's responsibility to contain the silt, contain the settlement, and our staff will work with James to make sure we can clean that up to where the Coastal Legal Court does not have to expend any more money to take care of that.
All right, thank you.
I have one question. We've been told the last 2 to 3 to 4 weeks, we're going to get those. I know it's sleeted, it's snowed, it's rained. I know all this. It looks like, keep our fingers crossed, it looks like we're going to get a break in the weather this week or next week.
It does. The barrels were supposed to be moved several weeks ago. Rain, some weather, snow, rain, and so forth. They got the concrete repaired. So, we're looking to see at the last meeting, I believe yourself was there, or maybe you weren't at the last.
No. We were in Austin.
That's right. James Construction had stated they were going to provide us a 3-week look ahead of the schedule. So we're hoping to look at that and see exactly what they plan to accomplish over the next several weeks once the weather clears. When it's hot and heavy, they may be committed to get those up by the end of last month. So hopefully this is the promised time for them borrow because that's going to be the first thing. But concrete, everything being done, working on the brick pavers and so forth, we all get that accomplished with this company trying.
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, item number 9. Item number 8. We have with us today Mr. Charles Poole. Mr. Poole is from James Construction Group, and I asked Mr. Poole or anyone at James Construction to please come and meet with the commissioners publicly, and Mr. Poole has graciously agreed to do that. He knows that he comes up here, and he knows that we have talked about his company. He's watched the videos. He knows what we're dealing with, or at least I think that he knows what we're dealing with, and we are grateful that you have come today, Mr. Poole, to talk to us, and you know the questions that we have. Are we going to finish this project? And if we are, when are we going to finish it? And is James Construction willing to devote the time and the manpower and the materials and whatever is necessary to get it done? You've seen us just approve an additional $650,000 to PTP, and that is because this project has been delayed. And we have met with some of your personnel previously who had made promises to us that didn't get fulfilled. And so we are looking to you for some encouraging words today.
Yes, no, and yes.
Okay.
We're aware of the problem. It has been expressed on this meeting before that y'all had concern about James pulling off this job. And you also expressed concern about trying to get us in the fall, taking the time away from us. And I hate to feel that kind of stuff, like I told you. We've never liked it. We and my team, I and my team,
project manager. Dale Will is senior project manager. We're committed, and all our people on this job are committed to the same commitment that Mr. Kennedy that on May 1st, we start the chip seal, and we try to get the job completed. Two main things that were mentioned by PTP. Top of the roadway has got to be completed, the base has got to be completed, and before that, even the ditches have got to be completed. We've got to build this job from the bottom up, so when we get to the top, it's done. There's no saying in construction is that dry weather is better than rains any day. As you know, we're not having that kind of weather. I can't tell you when we're complete, but I'll tell you this, that we're going to have the people out there that we need to, when it is dry, when it is, helps us to get out there and get it done. We're committed people to it. We've got 3 supervisors sitting down in the trailer right now, waiting for the train to quit so they get out there, fix the potholes and crossroads and that kind of thing. When it takes one, if it takes one more grader, and we have 2, we'll have 2 out there to finish that road race. Trying to get that finished. So we work, we have to do, we know that. We'll take care of it.
Well, you did mention some harsh subjects that we addressed. We felt like we had to address them, and I think you know about this, but not only is the delay on this project a delay to our citizens in completing what's going to be a fantastic loop project. We've got the center section missing right now. We've got a lot of homeowners that are severely inconvenienced, and we're not realizing anywhere near the total benefit that this loop project is going to give us. Right now, we've got a couple of segments that are complete, but we're far from having the full benefits because we've got that center section. We're having to endure barrels in front of the busiest place in town down there by Walmart. I'm just talking about the inconvenience to the community and their desire to see this project come to a completion so that we can all finally enjoy what we've been setting aside hard-earned money in the form of taxes for years and years. Now I'm going to talk about some things that directly affect the wallet of this Commissioner's Court, and that is we have begun to make hefty bond payments as of just a few days ago, the 1st of this month. And when we originally planned out those bond repayments, we anticipated some inflows coming from TxDOT. Well, those inflows haven't quite begun yet. They started to trickle in, but we were anticipating being in full force, $4.2 million every 6 months coming in from TxDOT. We haven't seen that yet. And every 6-month period that we forego that, we're having to dip into our pocket. We've already dipped into it to the form of about $1.5 million. We've only got pockets that are so deep. And the longer this project gets delayed, the longer our revenues are delayed coming back in the form of repayment from TxDOT. And the longer that happens, the more of our own money we have to put up. And we have a limited amount of that money. So if September comes along and next March comes along and we still don't have a project as well as the 6 to 8 month wait that comes after the acceptance of that project, then we're going to be dipping into our fund balance to a point where a strong fund balance is all of a sudden a fund balance that's not adequate for this county. And that's what makes me nervous. That even overshadows the inconvenience factor of what our community is having to deal with. And so we know that in order for us to be assured of getting that full $4.2 million come September of this year, we've got to have this job done, signed off on by TxDOT. In your opinion, is that a possibility?
Yes, sir.
How strong of a possibility is that? Is it, if it's just a remote, probably not possibility? I'm asking for your honesty here so that we can plan.
DOT will not accept it until after a 60-day road period on the grass.
Judge, I think, well, just to make sure everybody understands, TxDOT has to accept the road.
Would you give Mark that mic there? I want, this is important stuff, and I'd like it recorded, please.
Turn it on, Mark.
And you can sit over there if you like.
For TxDOT acceptance, we will have to have the road 100 completed. TxDOT will have to perform their punch list, checklist item. Every item will need to be addressed. The area office and the district will come out on the project to confirm that all items have been done. And then once they sign off and send the court the letter saying they've accepted it, then you've got a 6-month window before you get paid. With that being said, we have to have this accepted. My opinion, the last day is June 1st. And I don't know if Mr. Poole is telling us he feels that's possible. With 70% grass growth, exactly, in the ditches. From one end to the other. Because you can't start seal coat till May 1st. So, is James Construction?
6 months.
No. Hard and fast. It's in contract, executed, no deviation from it. 6 months after TxDOT accepts it is when they're eligible to be paid back. The problem is, how quick can we get the road complete by James Construction, PTP, the county's standards, and get TxDOT to accept it? If you're telling me you can get all that done by May 15th, I'm not saying TxDOT won't accept it between May 15th and June 1st, but we haven't seen that rapid as acceptance as of yet. My biggest concern is I'm not for sure we can get the road complete by May 15th. And honestly, I'm telling you, I don't think we can. So, I mean, it's the problem we knew we all faced was in the agreement that James Construction executed with Titus County is that they agreed that they would perform all activities on the project prior to May 1st and have them completed except seal coat and striping. And then we amended verbally and said we would hold off installing the signs due to vandalism, whatever, and they could start that May 1st as well. But their intention from when Pat Plawnicki was in control was they would lay seal coat, stripe it, from May 1st to May 15th be completed, and then we would get TxDOT to accept it. Right now, we're nowhere near ready to start laying seal coat May 1st. There's a lot of items that need to be taken care of. There's a lot of ditches. We have to get grass growing. The bridge needs some work done on it. The signals aren't 100%. I mean, the stripe. There's a lot of items besides those little major pay items that we listed that needs to be done that James is not going to be paid for, that is going to take some time. I'm not saying it can't be done, but we're going to need a staff of an army out here to do it. And we know we're going to have weather days. You just can't assume we've got the next 2.5 months of free weather days. I think, Judge, I gave you some information since September 1. There's been 130 days available to work, not including weekends. Out of those 130 days, 18 of those were weather days. James was not on the project. They could not work. They were weather days. 6 of those other days were holidays. So we're looking at 106 days since September 1st, and we were told November 15th will be done. December 15th will be done. January 15th. We're moving out. We were worried they were going to leave and then come back, and then it got to a point where there's no way they could leave the project. They have to stay here if we're going to make our date. Now I just think we're at the 11th hour, and I think now that James have seen some of the status of the project, I think they agree. I don't know. I'd like to know what Mr. Pooley feels, but there's a lot of work still to be done, and we need cooperation for the weather for sure, but we've had 106 good days of weather to produce some work. Now we're at the last minute. We've got to produce it.
Back to you, Mr. Poole. Sorry.
I thought you asked that question.
Yeah, I'm still back to you.
Okay. I know there's a lot of work to be done. It was said earlier that we were working with the sales system out there. We know that we don't have to wait till the chip seals done to work with the sales system. we're working on those kind of things out there. There's a lot of things that we can do that out there, whether, not weather related. Then again, there's a lot. And if you ask me to bid with the league, if I think that we're going to be through with everything by June the 1st, I'm going to tell you that we're going to try every way we can to do that. If I told you, that yes, absolutely, we'll be through, and I'm controlling the weather. If I would control the weather, I would do it.
And I understand you don't control the weather, but somebody in your organization controls the manpower on this job. Back a year ago when I met with Pat, I was promised that manpower would be provided. It never came. And so our jaded opinion is based only on history. I've never met you or the gentlemen that are here with you today. I'm sure you're wonderful guys, and I appreciate the fact that you're here. But that being said, all we can do is our opinions and our beliefs and our expectations each day are built on the day before, and the day before that, and the day before that. I look forward to a day when PTP calls me and says, you know what, they've got an army here on the job. They've got the manpower on this job that we think is going to be needed in order to complete that. I've never gotten that call in the last year. It's always been less than expected, every single day. And so if I'm being told this, that we're going to do our very best, and yet I still continue to see limited resources on the job, and every day will go by and I'll go, I have that much less faith that this is going to come to fruition. Do you have the control over the amount of manpower that can be given to this job, and are you willing to commit that level of manpower to get this job done?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Share, can you share this with the
Not sure if we're going to go over the next meeting of weather.
This is our head schedule that we plan to propose to do on this project. And we also invite PTP's input on some of the things or the things they think we need to be doing out there. But just let them know what we're planning on doing. To complete. And if they think we need to be out there working the base, and it's sufficient for the weather, not being against, we'll work the base. But it'll be a mutual project from here on.
If I continue to get reports, and hopefully they'll be favorable from PTP in the days and the weeks ahead, and I don't feel like what we're talking about right here is happening, who's my go-to person if I want to pick up the phone and call somebody?
You got my card.
Thank you. Okay. I do have it.
And also, Mr. Cooley has the authority and responsibility to make decisions. Well, I think that was a complaint in staff. He's got people on the job that can make decisions.
Good. Commissioners, you have here the three most important men to us right now. This is your opportunity to ask them any question, express any opinions that you have. And like I promised you, we're not here to fry you today, but we are here begging you to finish this job for us. Commissioners?
The only thing I have to say, I appreciate you coming. That means a lot to me. Because I will say probably nobody's going to show up. Takes a lot of guts to walk up here and tell us what you just told us we expect it to be done. And I appreciate you being here. That does mean a lot to me.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Poole. Gentlemen.
Anything you gentlemen want to add? Okay.
All commitments I've done,
I'm Gary, the project manager. I was originally out there when the job started. Got pulled off over back to manage some of the work back in. Now we're laying back and we're going to get it done. But I know I've heard one of the concerns of the barrel on 271. I just wanted to make y'all aware of it. We made at the last meeting, just literally awesome. Our intention ever since the last meeting, is to go ahead and temporarily stripe that intersection. We didn't want to put the permanent stripe out because between now and then it might be tore up. And we don't want to have to redo the expensive unlicensed stripe at the end. So the decision made, we're going to go ahead and temporarily stripe that intersection, which will allow us to clear the whole intersection. Nice. So as soon as the weather dries, we can get that subcontractor here, that's why we're going to decision making. It's just unfortunately snow, sleeting, I just going to have to stop. So we might have one or two out there. But just want to know that is probably the
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Eric, are you going to be here for the most part? What kind of schedule will you have in this area?
I'll be here a couple of days throughout the week.
Okay.
I also have other projects that I'm managing as well, just as far as for us and
Okay.
I have already got extra supervisors on the job. As of this morning, even though it's too wet to do anything, we've got two more, another superintendent type and four from Mississippi. A new guy retired out of Ruston here. And we also have another crew that's on another job in Center, Texas, that's available as a meeting also there now. So we're beefing up that manpower. I can't control what's past since I left. When I was here, I felt like some things were getting done. We were slow starting, and once we got rolling, progress was really good. I can't control what happened here when it wasn't. I'm back and we're going to push this.
Well, we know you've inherited some problems, and we appreciate you being here as well, and look forward to seeing some real changes in the weeks ahead. Okay, thank you. All right, item number 9, discuss and possibly take action on preparation of the plat and subdivision regulations. We've talked about this now for 2 or 3 meetings, and today we've got back with us Judy Kent, and Judy, kind of bring us up to date on where you're at these days.
Okay, and working with the different groups of people on this project, surveyor that's probably most used down here out of Silver Springs sort of developed an attitude with me and told me that we had regulations that Dan Hampton had put in place in 1992 that they've been using. He got kind of ugly with me about it, and I asked him to send me a copy of the Dan Hampton regulations that were done in 92. He sent those. We put those together with the bits and pieces that we'd also gotten from y'all and developed what we felt is a decent set of subdivision regulations and plat regulations. And so it was the consensus of the group that worked on the project. It would be better that we use the ones we already had and put those before the state and see if that will work. And then if they'll tell us what doesn't work about it, then we work on those portions. So that's what we've done. So these are everything we have in place already.
And these were done by Dan Hampton.
Part of them were done by Dan Hampton, the rest were the bits and pieces that you were.
So you've joined together. Is there anything from that document that was brought to us by Walt Sears?
None of that is in here.
Okay.
This is just what we already have in place, what we've been using. To us as realtors and to the developers, less is best. I mean, it's not like we've got a bunch of bad subdivisions here. We don't have that. And as it was, people were going to the county clerk's office and getting these regulations and using them. They weren't put together with all the amendments that have been made in Commissioner's Court by y'all. So that's what we did. We just put it all together. Y'all can look at it and see it. That's the consensus of the group that worked on the project, that we would like to run this by the state and see if they're okay with this. If they want, they'll tell us what they need added to it or what they want addressed that's not addressed.
Well, I've never seen a lot of this, but you've retyped it as well, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We put it all together where it flows and where it makes sense. And the one with 16 pages that Walt gave us is Article 1, Section 1, you know, you have to read the whole thing to find something you wanted to find in this. You know, we've got this broke down with subtitles and all, where if you're just looking for one certain section, you can find it. We felt this was a whole lot easier to read, better put together than that one that he gave us. And, you know, it could be that the state will just accept this and say, yeah, this is great, and that's what we're hoping for. If not, certainly that you would think they would tell us what we're not addressing if they want to address.
The people on your committee, you feel like, are happy with this document?
Yes. Yeah.
And can you tell us who helped you work with this so that we can give them a thanks?
We had, what I did originally was call all the brokers of each of the realty companies here in town, in fact, we got involved, and then I called some individuals that I know had worked on subdivisions here in the past, and so we had Mitch Maven and Michael Maven, we had Redfern and Diane Kennedy, and I were 5 realtors that showed up.
And they've seen this final document?
I emailed it to all of them, yeah.
Okay. Any comments back from them, positive or negative?
No, except, yeah, let's go with what we got first.
Okay.
Let's see if that'll work. You know, this could completely satisfy them, and nobody's hurt by it, and nobody did anything to the developers, nothing new that they haven't already had to go through in the past. We just didn't want to put a bunch of loops and steps and criteria out for these developers to restrict them or make them think twice about, well, do I really want to do a development in Titus County? The less restrictions you have, the better for them. And if we were having some bad stuff developments or having some bad experiences, we think, well, we got to fix this or fix that. But that's not the case here.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you bringing this.
Judge.
Obviously, I'd like some time, and I imagine the commissioners would like some time to read over this. And my hope is the same as yours. If we can get together a document, and if this document will satisfy the needs of the state and provide us a good framework with which to grow in the future, that's great. It's a win-win.
But this is what Kevin put in place in 92, and then every amendment that we could find is always made or added to anything in any of your commission reports.
Right.
Judge, let me bring you up a little history on the developments and stuff. Back in the 80s, I believe it was 89, we had developments out there that people were involved in, and we had, at that time, let's say a $100,000 house. We had people that had built anywhere from 8 to 10 homes and maybe that many more to be built, and there was no roads. So we really had a problem back in those days, and the reason we started making rules and regulations to help these landowners who spent this kind of money to make sure they got a quality road built into their subdivision. So that's where these rules and regulations start. Up to that time, we had no rules or regulations. You could just do what you wanted to. Individuals, not so bad, because that is your road. Also, some of these developments were gated, so that's their road. That's their private road, and the people that live in there maintain that road. But if they're not gated, they become county. We had to put some specs to set up for them to build those roads for the county. And that's how this has evolved over the years. But at one time, there was no rules and regulations. And I really appreciate y'all working on this. Judge, if you can talk to Walt and maybe let him look at these and see.
First thing I'd like you to do is you gentlemen read over this and see if you have any comments. But in the meantime, I can get a copy of this to Walt, let him be taking a look at it, see if he sees any holes. And then perhaps we can look at this again maybe in 2 weeks. We might as well keep it on the agenda until we get this wrapped up.
I've got a question, Judge, and one of the other commissioners or somebody Judy can. I was looking here at the road part of it. Is there a time limit that they have to maintain that before we can take it over the county?
1 year.
1 year? Okay.
And if it's not stated in there, I guess it should be stated.
That's what I was looking at. I didn't see it in there when I was looking through there.
I need to put it in there.
Yeah, it's not in
And what
there.
is that 1 year from the time that it is?
From the time it's
Time it's
brought to
presented.
Commissioner's Court,
And-
if I have
and
somebody,
we're finished with it, will you all please consider
we
that?
approve it in Commissioner's Court, that qualifies to be a county road. 1 year later, it'll come back to Commissioner's Court and it'll be adopted to accept that road.
Wait a minute, the road has to meet certain specifications.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, it's in
And then
here.
it's 1 year after it meets those specifications?
Yes, sir.
I have
They
people,
maintain it for a year.
I have people now that are on private roads are asking me to take it into the county road, and they don't have the
Well,
specification.
If it's a road and it's private and they want you to take it in, it still has to meet the specs
That's right.
that you tell them.
Okay, and then for 1 year, or
Then
just
for
meets
1
the
year,
spec?
they have to maintain that road once it's been accepted by the court.
But it's not, it don't meet the specifications now, the one I've got on the paper. They'd have to work on it, then wait a year.
Yes, sir.
All right, what would you like to do?
I'd
I
like
can
to,
table this till the next meeting.
Motion by Commissioner Riddle to table until the next meeting.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fields. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. Thanks again, Judy. Item number 10, consider and possibly approve the addition of an entry keypad, replacement doorknob, and push-button actuators for the Adult Probation Department to be paid from the security fund. Nobody knows exactly how everything's going to work out in a new building, and this is something that has come to light, and let me see if I can explain this. If you'll picture that long hallway over there in the new adult probation area, about midway down, about the back half of this space is secure space. This is where the offices of the probation officers are and where they meet with their probationers. The front half is the public area that anyone can access. In order to get into that secure area, there is a door there. But here's what we have discovered. That door right now cannot be accessed from the public area into the private area without one of the secretaries allowing that access. But the problem that comes in is if someone from the private area walks out into the public area and that door accidentally closes behind them and there is nobody there to let them back in, they can't get back into that area. There's not a key, there's not a keypad, there's not a thumbprint recognizer. And so what the problem that was posed to me, and I see it, is we need to have some kind of way where our people can get back into the secure area. And the suggestion is a keypad where they would enter a code from the public side and it would automatically open that electronic actuator on that lock and allow them back in there. A second problem is right now when that probation officer leaves the secure area and goes into the public area and they turn that knob, the doorknob that is on there automatically unlocks. And so once they enter the public area, if they don't re-lock that door from the private side, that door remains unlocked and we've lost our security element there. Anybody can enter from the public area into the private area. So those are the two problems we're trying to deal with. A third issue that's not mentioned on here that I'm observing that I think needs to be added to this is a hydraulic door closer, just like any door closer that you see that pulls that door back shut. Right now, if you leave a private area or no matter what, if you just open that door and somebody doesn't take the time to make sure that that door is pulled back shut, you don't even have it latched, much less locked. So we want to accomplish three things here, in my opinion. We want that door to remain closed at all times. We don't want somebody to run out the door, leave the door open. We want that closer to pull it shut. We want a type of doorknob on there where that door remains locked 100% of the time. if that door closes shut. And the closer will keep it shut. We want the doorknob to be appropriate and keep the door locked, and we want to have some method. Suggestion is a keypad with a code entered in order for someone to be allowed back into the secure area, someone that should be there, someone that knows the code. The price, not including the door closer, $585 for this keypad, for this lock to be modified to allow a keypad. The push-button actuators from the inside where the secretary is there in the waiting area could automatically open that door for those coming back, and replacing the doorknob where it will stay locked at all times. You'll be able to turn the knob from the private area when you're leaving to go into the public area. That's currently not a problem, but once you do that, it's not relocking, and we want a doorknob that will relock. I don't know what a door closer will cost. I'm anticipating a couple of $100 for the purchase and installation of that door closer, which is going to bring our cost up to around $785. In my discussion with Gilbert, we believe that this will solve all of these problems simultaneously.
I would agree to that, except with the exception, I don't like keypads. I'd rather those people that work in that area should have a key in their pocket. Keypads, my experience is, everybody in the country gets to know them. You change them daily if you want to keep changing the numbers. They get to know.
And I thought about the same thing there, and I think that the only rebuttal to that was, well, what if we leave our keys there? Well,
yeah. Gotta be. I mean, we can't.
A card access.
Card access.
Don't they have an identification badge or something?
Well, identification badge, but it's not a electronic key swipe access.
Of course, they might forget their lunch too. You think we ought to do that? No, that's.
Can't what you say?
They can't keep up with the keys. They don't need those jobs.
Yeah, I think that there's different ways we can accomplish this.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure that's going to drive the cost up. He's suggesting something simple: keep a key with you at all times and turn the key.
And if you forget to brush your teeth, that's it. You can't cover all those bases.
How much money do we have in the security?
That's my only thought.
Okay. Why don't I go back and visit some more with Gilbert about this that's been brought up? I have no problem with this key. Let me see if they would feel like that would accomplish the objectives, and hopefully they don't go out and make copies.
Making sure the door's shut either. It needs to be shut. It needs to be secure.
How would you feel well, let me just talk to them. If it was a card access, which we know they've got that card with them, and assuming they don't lose that card, there's no duplicates made of that card. Granted, it would take some more equipment, probably more expensive than that keypad, but let me look into some other options there. I'll discuss the key access. I'll discuss the card access. Heck, I'll even find out what thumbprint access might do. Maybe that's not as expensive as I'm envisioning it. All right.
I'll make a motion, we table this till you find out more information on it.
All right, that's what I'll do. Got a motion by Commissioner Hinton, second by Commissioner Parker for tabling. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, item number 11, consider and possibly approve entrance and parking modifications for Bates Cooper Sloan Funeral Home. Commissioner Fields, this has been your project you spent some time on. Why don't you share that with us?
And here in just a little bit, I'm going to ask Mr. Cooper to come up and talk to us, but I want to go over what I've been looking at and some of the problems we've encountered over the last several months. If you know, going to the funeral home south of us, if you're going to that funeral home, you can turn in. I've got two, I think.
I brought two.
Okay. Okay, as you go south, what I did, talk to the funeral home and talk with several people, Mr. Copeland, Mr. Sloan, and some other people about the problem that we were having down there, and it really comes back to safety. The whole key to this. I know at the college we had a safety issue out there. The county stepped up to the plate. We had to buy some homes and move some utilities and do some things, but it comes back to safety. We had, I think, 4 or 5 students that were killed out there. Since we've done that, put the turning lanes and did all this stuff, we have had no loss of life trying to get into the college. It's the same thing comes back to the funeral home here. We had the south entrance, and to get into that entrance, you had to go south, go under the bridge, and then come back up and make a turn. And I also found out the hearse could not make that turn because the road was not wide enough, so they had to come up to the second entrance that goes in there. What we're looking at to fix this problem, if you'll notice on the first page there, we're adding, taking out, and I'll show you the second page. This will be took out, and this road right here, the entrance would be widened to 45 feet. It's 28 feet, and this is what I'm talking about. This would be the second page. But anyway, just to show the general audience, the south entrance would be removed. That's what TxDOT has asked for. We were going to put some parking up here because we have people that used to come in at the south entrance, pull up in front of the funeral home, take care of personal business. If the funeral is going on, then they would have to go all the way around to the back and come around all that to try to get out. This would widen this up here a little bit more, also put parking in this area here, and then you'd have your 45 feet entrance in there where all the traffic would come in and out of that one location. The problem we're having is people come up here and they want to go to this entrance down here. And a lot of time that's our older people, but there are some young people. To eliminate this from having a head-on collision right here.
Explain to them where that median is here and why, and the fact that it's one way in front of that entrance.
You have 271 north coming right up front of the funeral home. Then you have 271 south going, and just as you get past this first entrance, it divides and goes to the right of the bridge. Okay? People are pulling to this medium instead of turning in here because it's not real wide. They still think they can go down here and pull in. And I know they have it on their phone. I've looked at 2 or 3 situations where people pull right down this one-way road, and I was there at one of them, and an 18-wheeler was coming back here. It was just blessed enough that they had time to get up here and get in this, and it's going down a one-way road. Again, this comes back to safety issues. You know, the state okayed this, and you see that in the bigger towns where they go down here and turn around. But people are used to going in here. The state, talking with Roger, he felt like this would make this 45 feet and put some parking where if you need to take care of personal stuff, you can back out and then come back out and not go all the way around the funeral home. You know, we've looked at this. I've talked with the funeral home, and they said they could live with this. But for the state to do this, they wanted to do away with this entrance down here, not have it where anybody could go down here and come in. Also, they're looking at putting signs and stuff up here to help people understand this is the area they need to go in. And I think with this plan, it will solve the problems. The number one thing is the safety of getting people in and out. And Mr. Cooper, at this time, if you would come up and talk to the court, and Ken has had a chance to look at this, and Mr. Sloan, also Roger Ledbetter to state. What I'm looking at today, I want some directions which way we need to go as a court I personally would like to see this done, but at the same time, we need the court to look at it and say, okay, we can do this. I'll try to have some figures and some recommendation at the next court meeting if the court decides to proceed forward with this. Mr. Cooper.
Stuart, we've been here today, he's on the officer, just like some several times today. We have some videos, like 4 or 5 videos of people coming down that one-way street the long way, getting into the ditch. We haven't had any legs yet, but we're hoping that we can get something done with this before we do have a wreck and head on collision and cost somebody a life. With the driveways, like I said, there's our second driveway, they had to go turn around down there. At this time right now, if we're coming from Pittsburgh, we cannot turn into that driveway with our funeral folks. And everybody knows we understand that. Funeral folks they are on a Kazakh basis, but they're stretched those for a lot of limousines and everything. We have to get all the way to the grass to turn in there. So what we're having to do now is go past our place so we can't even use the entrance there, that one driveway with our funeral coach. Some of you say, well, why do they need that parking up front? They don't have it right now. That's exactly right. But when we talk with our architects and do the plan of it, they will only just one entryway and put parking up there as those fields are showing you there. The reason that we didn't do that, we wanted people to be able to come in. Some of y'all have services there. If we've got a service going on and we've got another one that's passed away, your family's coming in. Our family's parked up there in the spots. We also have people coming in to pick up their death certificates from the earlier service, pay their insurance, and take care of some expenses, things of that nature. So it gives us some parking there. And also, well, you can still just go all the way around the building, but that works a good part of the time. But when we're having a service going on, that's not an option because we fill up the parking lot. Do we fill our parking lot up every time that we have a service? No, we did not. But we have lots of large services. You can't get around there, so then you're stopped. If we don't, we'll have one entrance out, we'll be able to go all the way around the building, get back out, go in those other corners and things. We'd love to have both our driveways, we'd still some reason from him. But as a concern to us, I don't want to pick on anybody or if anybody get offended by us saying older folks. Our older folks have been coming out there since 1993. Coming to that second turn. There's not a sign that says do not enter. The state says if you do that, they're not going to come into your funeral home. Well, I'd rather take the chance of them not coming into my funeral home and then them having to visit me because they made a wrong decision on them to try to get in our second entrance there. It's very, very dangerous. We're trying to work with y'all. We haven't had any conversation with all the loop at all. When the loop was to come in, it was not to affect our funeral home at all. Wasn't supposed to get either one of our driveways. They've got the last driveway. They've come to us, PDP come to us and asked us to sign off and fix both of our driveways, widen those driveways out, and have an easier entrance into them. And nothing was ever done to either one of those driveways. Where that money went, I think me or Dan when we talked to Judge Lee, I still don't know if they would pay for that or not pay for that, fix their driveways. So, but they weren't widened. It was the only thing that I can do. And when we help in this, we appreciate it. Not us, not just us, but the community, and they're trying to get in with the funeral home. Everybody said, well, everybody else has their different problems with getting into their businesses sometimes. One thing that we're not considering, when we go into the funeral home, and the partner lost his loved one, yes, you're thinking, but you're not thinking of doing that. You got to things going through your mind, you're dealing with the loss of a loved one. It's a difficult time in your mind. So, with the bank where it's closed, a little bit easier, to make that transition easier for them to get in and get out, with them not being in a proper state of mind. We greatly appreciate it from us. Any questions about our driveways?
No, wait a minute. Sorry. You said that they have not widened the driveways? But it was in the agreement, they discussed it?
When they discussed it with us, like I said, at first, when the loop
first started coming in, is to not affect any part of the on either one of our driveways. Then they come back and said they were going to affect the one driveway, they were going to fix both of our driveways. I'm not saying widen them so that you get two cars in, if they want, I call it the mouth of the entrance. It's going to make it easier to get in and out. But when we're coming from Pittsburgh, we cannot make that turn. And they did fix some concrete there that they tore up with them changing the road level, but they didn't widen it or change it to go with their cars and stuff in there.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you, before, I don't know why we're discussing it, but I'm glad you're here. This is a good example of how we violate the Open Meetings Act in this court, because Fields has been to all of the commissioners, he told me. The judge told him to go to all the commissioners. He's brought the map and everything, so I don't know why we're doing it. All we need to know is, the way I understood Mr. Fields, to say that TxDOT would approve it if you got rid of that driveway down there. And like I say, we should take care of our businesses with this, and we should take care of our citizens, who, by building this thing. But I just wonder if TxDOT, if I understand this correctly, Pete designs the building or whatever it is, the roads, and they give it to TxDOT. And TxDOT decides whether to approve it or not. And so apparently this happened. So TxDOT should fix this problem. Or it looks like to me, and that they should fix the lot, make it a driveway, a double driveway, whatever you got to do, widen it. It's the way I understand you got to do it, and it's the only way to do it. And they will accept it that way and put the signs up. Is that correct?
To put the sign, they were looking at putting some signs up.
Approved it yet?
They said they would okay this with the 45 feet entrance in there.
Yeah, we did it. So I think we should do it. I mean, but I think that I think TxDOT should pay for this. If they approve the road like it is, they should pay for it.
Well, I talked to TxDOT and they said they would not pay for it.
Well, I'm going to make a slight correction there. I didn't tell Coach Fields to do anything as far as taking these to you. I've had nothing to do with this project, so I'm going to correct you on that one.
What I've tried to do is find out information, what we could do or we couldn't do, and I talked to Mr. Ritters, talked to Mr. Hinton, and I talked to Mr. Parker, I think, just a little bit, did not show this plan and stuff. I asked TxDOT's Tim to help me with this, and he did, no charge. I'm trying to get information together where I can inform the court which way do you want to go.
We went to Coach Fields when all this started, and that's where this came into play. And as far as I know, that we didn't have any thought that we would do as well.
He just told me the judge said you need to talk to each of the commissioners about it when he comes to my office.
I'm not arguing that. I just know that Judge Bigley had had any discussion. My dad and Coach Fields have had several discussions, and me as well with him and my other partner, sure. So that's where it all started from with us, because it was the investment I was making there at our funeral home. We started working with Coach Fields and trying to get a solution to the problem without us having to get engineer different avenues to get that fixed, and that's Coach Fields is working with us on that. So I don't know if that was misspoken as well, but we ourselves have Coach Fields in first to see what we can be done, and he did come to play for us. Well, he told you I can't say that, but I know that we went to him first, so.
Thank you.
Put any pressure on TxDOT? I mean,
As far as paying at this time, there was a lot of coordination during the construction. And I know that we held with the funeral home at that time about the plans that TxDOT had approved of 2 driveways and trying to bring that section into a more open solution, one way in, one way out. And we visited with various members of the board, and that's when they listening to the funeral home. I personally wasn't at any of those meetings. I know Mr. Hyden was, Bobby Dick was, along with several other members of the court. And the consensus at that time was, let's leave it the way the plan showed, the TxDOT had approved. TxDOT's come back and listened to some of the input that we Commissioner Fields has given since the road has gone operational. As I told Commissioner Fields, this solution is put in place in almost every city in Texas. I understand it doesn't work here, but you have a little, potentially, you have a little population that may be utilizing this facility more than you, I'm not saying more than you do in other cities. I think that change doesn't happen as often in Mount Pleasant as it does, say, in the city of Corpus Christi or San Antonio or Houston or Austin or, Tyler. I mean, cities of all sizes. But, it is a solution that TxDOT recommends for that configuration. So now they've obviously come back and listened to the safety issues that Commissioner Fields is bringing up and says, well, we could go this other way. There are other ways to solve it as well with some signage, but, if it's clearly puts it back to a two-way driveway, which is what TxDOT originally did not want it to see, because you've got too many turning motions happening concurrently, which then causes problems on the roadway itself. And so, half dozen ways to skin a cat, but I do understand the safety concerns for the residents here. Would it, in a year from now, would people get used to it? That's the question. But I certainly understand that as well. I mean, there's always those things, but to say that TxDOT would go back now and pay for it, TxDOT doesn't typically pay for improvements on private property. I mean, which was some of the reasons, I think, during the discussions during construction, and when we were talking about different things, TxDOT itself at that time was a little leery because that's improving a business versus doing roadway improvements and you're adding the pavement and that sort of thing. That doesn't fall within their constraints typically. I'm not saying they have never done it, but typically they choose not to do that because they can be preferential one business versus the 30 other businesses along the road who want the same attention to their particular problem. So I doubt that Commissioner Fields are confirmed. I doubt TxDOT is participating more than they're already participating, but when they are participating in 271.
Let me say also,
Don't say paying for the funeral home versus paying for the hotels in the north end, a lot of different improvements for their businesses. Right. So.
They did make that correction for the Shell gas station up there, but and it's a shame that I understand not everybody can anticipate problems that are created by this, but to me this is a real problem that was created. I don't think anybody intended for it to happen. And I cut you off. Go ahead and finish.
well, I was just going to say, what I've been trying to do, and we've been working on this 2-3 months. Problem was brought to me. I went to different people to see if we could get it resolved, to see what the funeral home could live with, see what the state could live with. I'm trying to inform y'all what I have. What I'm trying to do now is, do we need to proceed with this, or you don't want to fool with it? I think it's a solution here that will take care of a problem, and I do think it will save a life.
I know you'd like to have that road configured differently, having nothing to do with what we're talking about here. But in light of the things that we've got in place there that aren't going to change, do you think this is the best possible solution given what we've got to work with? Okay.
I mean, we don't know, this should bring some steward number, just overload the haters in the driveway. And if we got that parking there, we can use the driveway. The reason that we got the two entrances ones there was for the 12, we got people in and out, and I can congregate in the back of the building where the things going on. And when we did change this and change that driveway, we changed to get in and out. Like we have to call them on the hour and know, funerals and we were in the past.
Ideally, you'd like to maintain that second entrance.
Not necessarily. I mean, if the perfect case scenario would just.
Well, in other words, is it worth us fighting a little harder to not only do this, but keep that other entrance?
I really believe that the second entrance is safer. We don't have it.
Okay.
northbound, and use that back entrance, or that first entrance, on the south side of the building. That's the one they're talking about getting rid of.
They told me they would
If they
not.
come in from the north, if they're going north, come in from the south, they can turn in that driveway.
You can turn in that driveway, but it's a very, very sharp angle because they did not widen that deal there. So you've got traffic going about 55, 60 miles an hour, and you slow down to a 10-mile-an-hour turn, you can turn there. And my people are going to make that turn, I mean, they can make that.
So up at the double driveway, that eventually they'd have a lane to get over to make the right turn. I make a motion, we table this, and we find out the cost, and we do whatever we have to do to fix it. If TxDOT don't pay for it, fix it. Whatever we can get them to approve.
I know you're not voting right now, but I'm just curious, if it was determined that TxDOT's not paying for a dime of this, would you be willing to spend available funds on this project to correct this?
Yes, I think it's necessary. I'd like to know the amounts and so forth, get some prices.
Okay.
And then,
Why don't we authorize Mike then to get prices on this?
who's going to do it? They're going to do the construction, hopefully. Or you're going to design it like you want it. Like, I don't see any reason for 11 parking places up there that handle business, 3, 4 maybe.
I understand you don't understand that, Ms. Bill, but here's the problem, and I'm not trying to single everybody out. We say to Phillips, if I don't want to have school repairs, and they come up there and make the arrangements, and I have another service, 3 parking spots, I'm going to do 2 of them there. I haven't had an apartment when my family's up there, because I can't pull them around. And if you go drive by, there you'll see us having a funeral, there'll be 7 or 18 cars parked in front of that single line, which I can do now. But if I don't have that widened in a spot, I can't park those cars in front of my funeral.
Well, that is a question I had, is why was there parking not there before? I mean, it seems to me to be a good thing up there.
Because we had the two driveways.
And so you're saying elimination of the second driveway results in the need for that? Okay.
Because our architects historically on the project like you're talking about, they were going to put up spaces up there.
Okay.
And so we didn't need those 2 driveways, so we had access to both lanes.
Are you concerned that people are going to start parking up there and filling that thing up in the first 10 minutes when people start arriving?
We work our parking lot, we've done our social city, we have someone on the parking lot all the time. We have staff up there for reserve parking for, family members, so it's not just going to be a park when you want to park there.
No, and what's going to keep me from, because I'd love to park there when I come to a funeral, and I can shoot right out and beat the crowd.
Hopefully there's not many signs that we have over there. I hate that, the judge told me.
But that's, well, you answered my question. You answered my question. You don't want funeral participants to park there. You want to maintain that just for folks that have other business going on. And maybe we can do that with signage, 15-minute parking or something like that, or during the funeral you have that coned off or whatever.
Or we would sign and then we would cone that off. And, the problem with coning it off, we have to have another guy, but we can do that if we have enough staff. And if we've got a family coming in, we make arrangements that night, that's what we do today. When y'all come in the morning, we've got a funeral going on, we have parking up there at the front of the dog, which is what we do now in our circle ride. We do not come around to the back, walk right there at the front of our building, and one of our directors will meet them there. So we park them there ourselves, looking for them, coming in to make arrangements.
My point is, every foot of concrete costs more money.
I
If you put 11 instead of 4 or 5,
and every driveway will take that me out of.
Totally.
That's my business up too, so, we're trying to get along with everybody, and just trying to make it where it's a workable situation for not only us, and I appreciate y'all considering.
Well, would half that number of spots satisfy, or do you really think all these are necessary to compensate?
They're all necessary, and like I said earlier, she really got the whole project done, and when you start actually getting to use that, it'd be kind of hard for me to be hindsight, be able to do the reality. Ends up doing that, so most of our families are larger families.
The 2 on the end, parking spaces down here on the end is already there. that's the existing road that's coming in there, so that, those two on the end would not be figured into that.
Well, you've tallied up the total square footage of concrete here. What's your ballpark guess on what this is going to cost?
I'd have to go back and kind of look at it, but they did give us, Tim really helped out in giving the square feet and stuff. And it depends on who I talk to. I'll go talk to several different contractors and get a quote or something from them and see what they think. I'm gonna say between $36,000 and $39,000.
So $40,000 for this project. Okay.
I think it would be less than that.
All right. Okay. How about a motion? Commissioner Fields made a motion that we would table this. How about we modify it to give Commissioner Fields authority to get some bids on this?
Quotes, bids, whatever.
Why, you know what you want. Why can't you get the bids?
You start with this,
Well, I think the difference would be us coordinating this project.
I wouldn't want to get the bids myself and then doing something that you didn't want to do. I'll be able to agree on what you're going to do and how you're going to do that versus me going out and picking the contract.
I would do that if we do it correctly and get the bids and open them in open court instead of having somebody come up here and say, so-and-so bid 12, you get there, like we have the bids in the past on the annex and so forth.
Okay, so what's your motion?
My motion is we table this and we'll allow until we get some prices. And we ask for bids on what we decide and you present them to the court and when it's brought back up at the same time. And we can vote then whether to or not to do it. Is my...
So your motion is to get sealed bids for this job?
That's right.
Okay.
For that job.
Table the project, authorize Commissioner Fields to initiate getting sealed bids for this project. That is the motion.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Parker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thank you, Mr. Cooper, for taking time and presenting this. All right. Item number 12, consider and possibly approve renewal of a financial advisory services agreement with Southwest Securities. Let me read this letter from John Martin. John Martin, Senior Vice President with Southwest Securities. This was originally addressed to Christy in our Auditor's Department. Christy, currently we do not have a financial advisory services agreement with Titus County. Our last agreement expired on December 6, 2008. In order for us to be in compliance with all regulatory requirements we have these days, we would appreciate your consideration of entering a new agreement with our firm. Since we're getting ready to assist you with the annual EMMA continuing disclosure filings, the timing is upon us to take care of this as soon as we can. Things were much easier when a relationship was understood with a handshake. Unfortunately, the compliance folks and regulators do not see it that way and require that we have written evidence of our relationship in order to assist you, whether that be on bond issues or with assistance in EMMA filings. I have provided a draft of our agreement for your consideration. As you can see, paragraph 6 addresses SEC Rule 15C2-12. I've left the date blank as I'm not sure when you want to put this on the court agenda. Assuming you're okay with the attached draft, I'll send you copies for execution with the appropriate dates filled in. Carl, any comment on that?
Every year, as part of the agreement, they pay sports bond issue. Every year, you have to call information to the state. They always fill those out.
Do they charge us for the service of filling those out?
Years, which is what you pay us to issue bonds.
Okay.
saying what they want to charge, and they want to charge.
They give a list of their fees, and it's like 0 up to $5 million, $2,500, $5 million to $10 million, $4,500. Well, I think they're talking about issuing new bonds here in this particular case. So there's no implication here that what they're asking for is going to cost us money. They just want to have something in place that shows we have a documented relationship with Titus County. That's my understanding, and I just wanted to know if you saw it any different.
Before you sign it, I'm sure that it was.
I agree.
There is a fee.
I agree. I agree. My assumption, and I will confirm that, is execution of this document will not result in any additional fees over anything we would have already been paying for them, unless we issue new bonds, sure. But the presence or the absence of this document will not cost us any more money, regardless of what they do. So that's it. Okay.
It'll come back if we don't.
Had a motion here and a second. Motion by Commissioner Parker, second by Commissioner Riddle. This is what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, that we execute this document that's being requested by Southwest Securities after the judge confirms that it will not result in any additional fees. And if it does, I will come back to the board. Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Did you get that motion in second? Item 13, consider and possibly approve travel and seminars. I've got two, I believe. Deborah Abston is asked to attend the County and District Clerk's Legal Education Program in San Marcos in late April. Mandatory training, yes. $220 registration, $140 per diem, $312 hotel. Taking a personal vehicle, 186 miles for a total cost of this training, $1,076.24. Second request comes from auditors Christy Davis and Sharon Reynolds to attend the Net Data Conference in Dallas on the 1st and 2nd of April. Travel date would be the day before. Cost of registration, $300 per person. One of those is complimentary. $100 per diem per person. $160 plus tax times 2 nights equals $320 plus tax for the hotel, and then carpooling together in a personal vehicle. About $820, not including mileage to send these two ladies.
We have been going to this, they've got this copy of the agenda, there was a section on the new forms we're going to have to file with the volunteers and 1095s and all those kind of things. And I thought the world would go do so. And that's
Right, those are the only two travel requests.
Make a motion to approve travel.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton for approval. Second. Second by Commissioner Parker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Item number 14, approve oral and written reports.
Hang on to that right there. Just hold it. Just hold it.
Why don't you just turn that off?
Just turn that off.
Well, or just hold it like that.
I've said here. It's just not getting warmed up. Make a motion to approve reports.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton,
Second.
seconds by Commissioner Parker. All in favor of approval of these written reports, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 15, consider possibly approve treasurer's report.
Thank you, Mayor.
I make a motion, we approve the treasury report.
Motion by Commissioner Riddle for approval.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 16, approve budget amendments. Item number 17, sign pay orders and approve
Make a
payments.
motion, we pay our bills.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton to pay our bills. Second by Commissioner Parker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we're getting real close here, closing comments, and then we're going to take a brief break before we sit down for our health insurance workshop. We're not going to adjourn until the end of that workshop. It remains an open public meeting. Any closing comments at this time while we've got a few people still in the audience? Commissioner Parker?
I have none, Judge.
Commissioner Hinton?
I have none, Judge.
Commissioner Fields?
No.
Commissioner Riddle?
No.
All right, and I don't have any either. Thank you for your... Yes.
And I agree, I think basically we got to check on the building there. And why is the city, why is the county being asked to pay for the whole project when the businesses in the city limits?
Because that's a county.
Part of the loop
county
project, I guess.
It's a loop project.
But I'll call Mr. Aarons and ask him if he'd be willing to pay for that.
I was wondering.
Well, it's not...
Why we're asked to pay the whole bill when they do this.
Well, I think the assumption is this will be paid for with loop funds. And I believe, that would be my opinion. Granted, it's, whether it comes out of our fund or whether it comes out of the building fund, the net result is it's still a cost that's attributed to the county, but we do have funds that can pay for this out of the loop fund. Okay, I don't have any closing comments. That said, we will take a break here for 5 minutes, and then we're going to be back to sit down with CAPS Insurance and Chris Kaplinger from UMR to get our semi-annual or quarterly update on our health insurance.
Oh, we didn't adjourn.
No, we're not going to adjourn until the end of the workshop.
This is Sherry.
Troy, I'm sorry I failed to recognize you. Thank you for being here with us today. Just for security. Things may get heated. Thank you for being here. No. Well, as overseers of the loop, I believe this is a project that was created by, a problem that was created by the loop, and I think that we believe that it's a problem created by the loop. We ought to discuss the loop project funds and take a correction. Like Carl said, either way, it's our money. Whether, if we didn't spend this money out of the loop fund, we'd have money to pay our bonds back quicker.
Well, that's true.
If you drive down to that second day, you are going down a one-way street over there.
You are?
They need to check on that deal. It is.
Travel deals and all.
I see the hearse can't turn in there. And they did fix the entrance. They made the radius much bigger, but they still can't make it with that hearse in that first stripe, they can't turn in there. They go over the deal.
But you need to make sure that one driveway that you're gonna have is wide enough for 2 lanes going in and 2 lanes going out. So I can't tell how many lanes they use.
3 good wide. 28.
15 feet, 15 feet.
Okay, so everybody's coming in one.
Where now it's just
But you
28
have to have
feet.
2 to be able to turn either way.
That's right. But now it's just 28 feet.
You're gonna need to really differentiate, because I'm telling you, 9
have
times,
to
somebody
mark it.
coming this way, they're liable to turn in.
Once they turn in, we need to do these
So
lines.
that's where I think with their, their so pay first come in, and then they'll maybe move those cones over, but that's their problem. After this deal's done, I've got to run a few errands, but I say you can be guaranteed that I'll be. Why don't you call for me come? But I would say after 2 o'clock would be safe. Just our workshop, they present to us the results. That's good.
Which doesn't and the business is a little problem.
Let's take this home.
Absolutely. Here, those numbers from this guy. But I knew we could do that. Hey, it's not hurt anything.
Have somebody cater lunch here this late.
Do what?
Cater lunch here this late.
I was so hoping.
Judges, don't make us sandwiches.
Well, I can literally get that done.
We can run and get,
Hey, half the people's here to sign up.
Really.
Don't pay some to look. I didn't see Hudson sign up.
Put his name on there.
Yeah, Hudson didn't sign up.
Mr. Parker, you might ask whatever lady keeps the website updated to put your name and phone number.
I've got to call the guys. I was on there the other day and saw it, and I've got to call the guys and get them.
Did you bring enough of that for everybody?
Was that it?
Did you bring everybody in?
This is the actual renewal from December, just a final signature and everything is good.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Jimmy Parker. Thank you.
And I do have claims
Yeah, I'm gonna finish doing.
Oh, I'm making notes on the other one.
On the other one, what?
You did
Finalized?
navigate.
Yeah, I finalized.
Okay, yeah, so I
Did I?
put your name, I don't know, without checking and stuff, but I put your name.
Yeah, I finalized. And the new one's already in there? Yeah, it is, because, see, there's nothing wrong with me. My mind is gone. That's like my wife. I asked her when the past 2 years went. She just looked at me and said, what? Actually 3 years, but who's counting?
Don't ask my wife that.
My wife tells me, I've been holding your hand ever since.
Any soil too? Does anybody see that?
Yes, I have.
Oh, you got it.
Okay. Tell her we're gonna use it a while.
We're gonna try it and see.
We're gonna try it.
We'll try what?
That soil too
Deal that
separates the sand and the gravel and silt and all that.
Just give me that soil too.
What's the matter, Carl?
You think you want to do that thing off of the court?
Probably will. Yeah. Yeah. Let's turn the mics on again. Okay. Probably there.
turn them away from that, baby. That didn't work. Pull it. Seems to work better than the three. I'm trying to stick it up.
Yeah.
If he sitting right here under the sand, I can't hear
Yeah, it's,
Well, me neither, but. Yeah.
Okay, it's 11:45 now, and we're back, and we're going to begin our insurance workshop. Here you go. Jenny? I'd already put it on eBay.
Thank you.
Yes.
We did just receive the rest of the month, so that's $612,000. We'll put it back in general fund.
Good.
I think it's in there, you'll sign off on the check back now.
All right, who's going to begin? Welcome, Tony, Chris.
Hey, how's everybody today?
Good.
It's Kathleen with you, Amar, and I'm here to go over the results of your 2014 plan year for the time period of January through December. This report is primarily done on a paid basis, so there could be claims that were maybe incurred in 2013 that were paid in 2014, and then when we get to an incurred type report, I'll show you what that is. There's one area that has truly incurred data in it, so it's truly only going to be a 9-month period that we're looking at. So if you'll turn to page 2, what we're looking at here is your enrollment for the 2014 plan year. You actually increased your enrollment from the prior year, 2013, by 5% in 2014. And your membership, your members also grew by 5%. And in the age range, in the second table down, the age range that increased the most was from the 50 to 64 age bracket. Page 3 is showing you your total claim summary. Page 2014 was a higher volume of claims for the year. As you can see on the first line under medical bills, you had basically double your medical claims bill from the prior year. And if you take out your ineligible charges, you'll show that your medical cover charges came in at a little over $2 million. Your discount savings was almost $1 million, $933,000, which left the medical allowed to be $1,129,000. Benefit designs, meaning any deductibles, co-insurance, any co-pays that members were responsible for is your benefit design. Coordination of benefits, anyone that was a member that had other insurance that was primary, this would be your coordination of benefits, which left the plan paying $985,000. Your pharmacy increased, but not quite as much. Your pharmacy paid claims was $262,000 for the year. For the total paid by the plan was $1,247,868.
And that doesn't include any of our stop loss insurance.
Correct.
So,
Correct. Now, that's truly what was paid. Any of the stop loss reimbursements would not be reflected in this. Under payment metrics, what these two tables are showing you here is the cost increase by your employees on the first table. So your employee cost doubled, or actually almost tripled. It was up 115%. You went from an average PE per employee per member month for medical of $291 to $626. And your members, your dependents,
as well went up 116% increase. I pointed out that you had a 5% growth in your enrollment with only 6 people on your employee side and 10 people on your dependent side. But it made a impact into your claims for the 2014 claim year. I will say that for 2015 so far, you're running much better right now. And then so then that came down to paid amount by paid month. And so looking at 2013, you'll look at the January year and you see a very low medical paid amount. And that was when you first came to UMR in 2013. So you didn't incur a lot of claims during that period because there was run out from your previous carrier. So you're really looking at a true year for 2014. In June, October, and December, you had some very high months, and there's some claims data that will further back and talk to you about your large claims.
Chris, in order to better make those apples and apples, are there some other monies that we paid through Health First that would make those actual totals for the county, whether it's Health First or UMR, to be higher in the previous year?
Yes.
So it's not such a stark increase?
Yes. So, for example, your January, February, and March of 2013, if you were able to capture what Health First paid for those 90 days run out, and then add those to your total of $432,000 for UMR's totals for 2013, that would give you a true apples-to-apples comparison. I would say that you probably did not incur $500,000 worth of claims. So 2014 was, just a very rough year, unfortunately.
Hey, Judge, I'm having Christie pull y'all handles year to date for the insurance fund, so I'll give those to y'all. And they're not going to match up with her numbers because she's doing January for December of 14. And the numbers you can see from us are October 1st through today. But you'll kind of see where we're at, what we budgeted for this year, and where we're at so far, and then you can take this down along with that. The summer months, obviously everything from October through December is in this year. Probably.
Any other questions on page 3? Okay. Page 4 is showing you the claim distribution by dollar amount. So the top table is your 2013 data, and your average claims ran in the $0 to $10,000 range. You had one large claimant that went between just a little over $100,000. For 2014, unfortunately, your totals, your large claimants actually spiked. You had one claimant in the $50,000 to $75,000 range, and then you had 4 patients that exceeded over $100,000 in 2014. To the tune of each one of them averaged about $121,000 in their claims.
What is our stop loss?
50,000. Yes.
But after 2 or 3 of those, we don't get that anymore, is that right?
You have the aggregating static.
Which is what, 3?
The aggregating specific is an additional 20,000 on top of the, so you get a total of 100,000 for all claims together.
So it's 2.
We could have had a stop loss on top of that, right?
Yes, and you're going to see here, if we collected any of the stop loss, sometimes, really what happens is, it takes a while for the stop loss money to come back in, so we may have paid the claims, we may have a stop loss come back to us. I don't accrue those, because I don't know what we're going to get to get it. And Cheryl, not in here, she tracks all that, so she knows what she's got.
So you had 88,000 in stop loss claims for that whole 6-month period?
No, that's just what her receivable is. That's what she knows she's got coming in.
Is there a listing of?
Any stop loss incomes I got will be on the second page. Now, this is just gonna be from October to now. And, so reimbursements are showing up. Where do we go, stop loss reimbursements? Are they on, they're on page 3 as a reimbursement. We haven't collected anything. Oh, here it is. Well, that's the print. I don't know, maybe she hadn't covered it in the last part. I'll have to check where she comes to, where she showed it. Just stop loss.
Because I looked at all your stop loss reimbursements for 2014 had been received. Now, the last one was received January 6th.
I may see where she told it.
Okay.
She's not putting it there.
Okay.
That's where it should be, and I'm not there. It should be on the third page, the third line.
Line down.
There's a stop loss. Some revenues come back in against the expenses, but she may be getting it out. But on this part though, the good news is that we started, if you look on page 1, down at the bottom, the fund balance, that's what we started the year with, it was $534,000. And if you look up there on the top line, even if you back off that 127.
Where are you seeing 534?
It's on page 1. The
first
line. I got the schedule.
Fund balance.
Oh, I see it now. I'm looking at the 583. I got you.
Okay, see the 534, that's what we started the year with.
Yeah.
You take the current cash in the bank, less than the 127,000, which is this claim we just got today. We still have 544, which means year to date, we're holding our own. So,
Year to date, beginning
October
1.
which includes the last 3 months of this year she's doing, which has some high. October and December were 2 of the big months that had big claims. So those are included in these numbers, we're still holding our own. Now, all the transfers have already been done. So, that might be that $125,000, that's already in there for the whole year. But it is holding its own. And I'll just have to check with Cheryl. I guess she's putting the reimbursements back against the claims expense. Right? Should separate that out here until they pull that out. Now, she doesn't show any stop loss reimbursements on here.
Page 5 is summarizing your high-cost claimants. At the top, you have your table that shows that in 2013, you had 2 high-cost claimants. And of your total overall claims, the high-cost claimants were 1.1% of the high cost, or of the claims. In 2014, you had 10 high-cost claimants, and the percentage of the overall claims was coming in at 5%. The patients were 5% of your total claims. 57% of the high-cost claimants were of your entire claim total. So if you look at
And that's number of patients, not dollars. That's number of patients.
correct, number of patients. And high-cost claimants is anything based at $25,000 or above. So of the $985,000 in claims paid, 57% of the population were of those dollars. And in looking at your high-cost claimant detail for 2014, this gives you your top 10, shows you your relationship, your gender, your age, status, whether they're active or terminated, and then the dollars paid current total period. So current period would be 2014. Prior year total paid was 2013.
say their age is plus 65, those can only be people that are over 65 that are still working. Because if they were retired, they would be on Medicaid.
Right, and these show
They
all.
they have to come off of our insurance when they're come eligible for Medicare.
65 plus, or?
65 plus if they're retired.
Yeah.
So that's all.
But
we
if they're
have
not
to do.
retired, they're
If
still
not
on
retired,
ours.
they're still on our insurance. Until they retire.
And that's just the way Medicare works.
Right. The plan is primary.
Plan is primary.
Now, that's not to say that they could be on Medicare with a supplement.
But because they're actively employed, your plan has to be primary.
That's not a plan choice we make, that's just the law.
Correct.
If they're still on your plan.
If they're still on your plan.
They can elect to be on Medicare with a supplement and come off the
We
plan.
can't make that as part of
You
our
can't
plan
make
that
that-
you turn
You can't
65.
You can't require them to do that, but that is an option that a lot of groups make it, that it offered to the employee.
Offer it or make it mandatory.
Offer it. You can't make it mandatory, you can offer it. Which generally is a better option.
Medicare.
A and B and a supplement F has 100%. 100% of all claims.
We need to do a better job of advertising
Is
that.
that what you are?
Yes.
You're not on
And that's,
that.
we've had this conversation. That's kind of what we've talked about for the last 2 years, haven't we?
And I know that in, I think it was September when I was here last, that was something y'all were going to consider for 2016.
Coming into focus now.
Focusing, reminder.
Yes.
Bring it to
Yes.
their attention.
Absolutely.
They're going to get a lot better coverage if they don't know what Medicare is doing.
Page 6 is actually showing you from 2013 to 2014 where the dollars were being spent, whether it was inpatient, outpatient, physician charges. You had a high spike in inpatient services from the previous year. Your outpatient services went up, and then your physician services went up. And the physician services will go up when you have utilization, whether it be inpatient or outpatient.
If you go back, you just don't pay 5%. If you look at that page 5, you're over 65, that's a lot more than that's dollars.
Right.
That the employees that have it is good insurance, I would assume.
Better.
It's better insurance?
In my
We just need to.
We're missing a huge opportunity then.
Yeah, we just need to educate them that, hey, you're better off coming off our plan and going on Medicare. And you help yourself and us by doing it.
Like we have 3.
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's 5 of them on there on that page 5.
One's terminated. Number 3 is terminated, so there's really 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
But up until the point they terminated, we still pay that.
Exactly, maybe have some bonus, yeah.
And the highest.
Page 7 is breaking down your services by the key metrics being emergency room visits, office visits, lab services, and radiology. We did have a pretty high spike in emergency services this year. So we want to make sure that we are getting the word out about using the urgent cares. We have the ability to chat online with the nurses or talk to our nurse line and hopefully stay out of the emergency room. So we got to make that a key. Would you have a? Yeah, we could maybe put up a reminder about using nurse line, some information about why using urgent care versus the emergency room is a money saver and just as valuable.
Urgent care show up under office visits?
Yes.
So you're telling me we had 280 terms? Because that's each visit, we had 280.
Well, it's actually per 1,000, so it's averaged out.
Okay, so it's not that.
No, it's not truly 280 visits, but you did have a change in your utilization in the emergency room.
Did you see that, on item 7 still, urgent care?
Urgent care would actually fall under an office visit. It would not be considered a emergency room service.
That's like this clinic we have down here.
It's under outpatient, right?
Emergency room, yes.
On your pie chart page, on page 6, that emergency, what you're talking about, emergency room would have gone into your outpatient budget.
Correct.
But yeah, there, with the new facility, that possibly could help, if that's something that's being talked about, is to use that urgent care facility down there instead of going to the emergency room.
It is cheaper, is it? Y'all know that? It's cheaper from the building.
It's just longer, I think, but they may work some of that out, but I know that initially it's
Longer than sitting in the room. Really? That's usually not the case. Usually an urgent care is a little bit quicker than having to go to an emergency room. Emergency room. Absolutely.
People I talked to said that they like it. They can get to it get in and get out. And it's not near as costly as hospital.
It is not.
She's saying it's out of
Everybody I know is going down here, they sent me, my wife cut me with a chainsaw, they sent me to the emergency room.
After you went down there?
Yeah, and then Mickey Brown, one of my guys, went down there one night. Said, they,
Was it too late, or they didn't have a doctor, or what?
oh, it said they didn't have a doctor to show me up. They didn't have a.
I could search you up.
PT? What do you call them? Those physician's
Nurse.
assistants, PA. Said we had our PA was busy and won't be through. We'll close before she gets through.
Ever get cut off.
You better
I'll
do
get some catgut and a hook needle and I'll get you surgery out of it.
Page 8. This is, again, these are averages per 1,000. So knowing that you had a lot more utilization in your inpatient center, your admissions and your admin stays did increase. And then you come down to the inpatient utilization, we've identified there were 10 admits for a total of $381,000 in 2014. Page 9, this is where we're talking about the utilization and the average discount. So the network utilization, you've got your inpatient charges is showing as in-network, and your outpatient charges is showing as all in-network. I do want to point out, though, we do know that last year when we were here discussing claimants, we had members that were going to East Texas Medical Center in Tyler, which is an out-of-network facility. So it is showing as in-network. However, if you come down to the second table where it shows network discounts, those discounts are actually falling. I apologize, if you come down to discount by network, those East Texas Medical Center Tyler, those discounts actually fall under multi-plan. So you can see the discount differential. With United Healthcare's Choice Plus, your average discount is 50.22%, but multi-plan is only capturing 30.17% of the discount.
You need to slow down and explain that a little bit to me.
So at the top, you show your network utilization, whether it was in-network or out-of-network. And you show all of your charges for in-network, for inpatient, and outpatient, all showing to be in-network. They're in-network because we were able to capture a discount because they were contracted with a network. They just weren't contracted with the United Healthcare Choice Plus network. So those members who were inpatient and used the outpatient facilities at East Texas Medical Center Tyler, because that's the only facility of ETMC that's out of network for us, those charges actually fall under the multi-plan discount in the table below. In the $432,000, we were able to capture $130,000 discount, but if they had gone to, say, Mother Francis, they would have fallen in that United Healthcare Network discount, and your average discount would have been about 50% versus 30%. So there really is dollars that were not captured as great as they could have been.
And the penalty that they paid was, they did pay some penalty.
Higher
We
deductible.
paid the lion's share.
Right, exactly. So if they'd met their deductible and they'd already met their co-insurance, the plan would be paying a lot more money for that claimant. Absolutely.
Let me ask you a question here on the ones that are in network. East Texas, that Tyler is not in the network.
Right.
What about Baylor, Indiana, or something?
They're all in network.
Everything's in
Yes.
network at East Texas.
East Texas Medical Center. That's the one facility.
Yeah, but that's one of them. A lot of people in here use it. Because it-
I know. I know.
Is there a way to switch from other places to them?
Well,
I understand what you're arguing about. They don't want to both be in the same
Right.
network.
Right.
Because ETMC Tower's not in anybody's network. They're not in Blue Cross's network
Or Aetna's or Sager's network.
No, because they're on the TVA.
so they don't want.
That's why they give you those huge discounts when you're with Health First. They want to keep it all in the same
Right.
bubble.
Right. Your discount still, I mean, it went down slightly. I'm down at the table that says discount by network. It did go down slightly, and again, that's because some of the dollars were falling out of the, into the, what we call our wrap network. But you still average 50% in discount on your overall claims. Of $1,500,000, we captured $788,000 worth of discounts in those claims.
See, I'm pretty 933.
Well, because I'm just talking about United.
Oh, that's Saturday night, that's
Yes,
okay.
yeah. And then, you have those secondary networks that we offer, so that if they happen to see that out-of-network provider or facility, and they're contracted with either multi-plan, First Health, or TC3, we're still trying to capture a discount to save the member and the plan's money. And then there were truly $21,000 out-of-network claims. Page 10 shows you your major diagnostic categories. So these are your large claimants. These are all the categories of diagnoses that we're seeing for 2014. And so in 2013, your high dollar claim was digestive. Your second one was musculoskeletal, which is still the same for this year. And your third highest for 2013 was the nervous system. This year, in 2014, you had liver, pancreas as your top number one patient. It had only 4 patients, but it was your highest dollar spend. Then you had musculoskeletal, digestive, and respiratory. And then page 11 is your preventative. This is the report that I talked about is run on an incurred basis. So what it means is these are truly only claims that were incurred from January 1 through 9/30. And I know that we had the ETMC bus come, when was that? Was it September? October. So the ETMC bus with the mammograms, that information is not in here, but you still did, the county and the employees and their dependents did a really good job with taking care of the preventative services. So I applaud you, your members are taking that seriously. They're out there getting those preventative services done, which they should, hopefully catching things early and then being able to treat them.
Let me tell you the other thing I ran into with this. I'm in a position where I'm capable, but I can tell you a lot about it. No, it's not. I went to colonoscopy, and because they're kind of polyp, they will pay for it.
Right.
And it costs them $800-900. I had to pay for that.
Right.
These guys,
There's-
they pay for it one time, you won't get them
No,
back.
you're right.
But that is the way every plan's colonoscopy screen is set up. It is a routine colonoscopy. If you just go and you're fine. If they find a polyp, it's going to diagnostic.
Not the next time, but that time.
That time.
It's like gambling. You're throwing some dice out there.
But I'm telling you,
That's-
the problem is,
yeah.
one of these hands that makes $35,000 a year, first time they have to pay $800, they're not gonna.
They're not gonna go back no more.
Which is gonna end up costing us.
I'm all for that preventative as long as it's being paid for, but once you find a problem with me, I'm gonna quit going back to find that problem.
Because, I mean, we're telling them all, go in and get them done, because it's not gonna cost you but $50 or whatever.
But then when they go in and have it done, they remove that polyp, then it's gonna cost them, and they gonna, as I've already had that discussion with some of them.
That's paid, but just know, if you are, you're paying something that nobody else is paying.
How was it under Health First? Do you happen to know how everything used to be? Would it have probably been that same
We
way?
copy everything from Health First.
So that's nothing new.
So it was probably, I will just tell you, in all the groups I run, whether self-funded, fully insured, they're all that way. I mean, you can change it, but just so you know.
Under Health First, if you had a polyp and they sent it off and it was not cancerous, they went ahead and paid for it.
I don't know, I don't know if they did that or not.
But now, if it was cancer, then it was, you got cancer.
What about going forward, the next time you go back? Same deal, or have you already been marked with an X that you got a polyp, and so you'll
Depends on how the
forever?
doctor files it, if he files it diagnostic or preventative. Generally, if they've done the polyp, you're gonna go back quicker than the normal period of time, 5 years instead of the normal 10.
Right.
So it's gonna be the same thing.
But-
They're gonna have to pay.
But I think, like what she said, it depends on the doctor, how they file it. Because my doctor, I think he filed it as preventative, and it didn't cost me nothing.
Even though.
He told me to come back, I think, 5 years. But then, one of my hands had his done, and they filed it differently. And he was gonna have to pay it, but I think they went back and talked to the doctor, and the doctor filed it, coded it differently.
It's all.
That's preventative, but, I mean, if, that's what we ask them to do, to go get a preventative, so that's the way it should be filed first time, I would think. And then after that, then, go from there. But I don't know.
Well, it is kind of misleading because you're encouraging them to go,
yeah.
tell them it's within the deal, but it can cost them about $700-800, even if the polyp is benign.
Right,
Yeah. The
But
trigger
it's-
is a polyp.
right. But it depends, like I said, I went to a different doctor than they did.
Why should it be the trigger if it's not cancer?
They have to actually remove
Remove
a polyp. You don't need polyps in there, so that reverts to a medical condition. And it's as simple as a diagnosis of polyps found. And generally, they don't, when they bill it first, we get it, they haven't tested it yet. They haven't tested to see if it's benign or
Well,
cancerous.
To me, you're defeating the purpose, what you're trying to find out. If you find the polyps early, it takes 8 to 10 years for that to develop into cancer.
But it's, the way you have it now is the norm.
Well, I think it needs to change.
I mean, it would be nice if doctors realized that they're gonna get 100% payment, whether they find a polyp or not, but, we can't tell doctors to bill it that way. When a patient calls and says, I'd like to have a routine or preventative colonoscopy, you would like to see that that's how it's billed that way,
I
regardless.
don't think he has a choice to go that way
If he finds it.
he takes it out.
You're right. What the choice
It's
is.
just a choice of the county if
Right,
they
yeah.
want to say, as long as it's benign, we're not.
And Tony's correct. All of my customers, actually with the exception of one, that's how their plan is set up. That it's routine, as long as there's no medical diagnosis built with it. I did have one customer this year change that benefit because they really did want their members to get it regardless. And so they are paying that first one regardless of diagnosis at 100%. And then any future will be paid at the plan benefit level unless it's
truly coded as a preventative. Now, generally, we don't have a screening on a colonoscopy, but once every 5 years, unless you find a condition, and of course, then they have to see more further. It keeps slipping that. It's like passing the gas.
Well, if somebody, if they found a polyp and they sent it off and it was non-cancerous, I'd sure want those people to continue to go back. I wouldn't want them to say, well, I'm not going to go back. I don't have $800, $900. I mean, it looks like to me.
Well, that's something we all discuss, is some put it in the plan for the time.
And let me run some analysis, claims analysis to see what, if you were to decide to allow the first colonoscopy regardless of medical diagnosis at 100%, let me go back and do some analysis to see what it would cost the claim. And then this summer, when you're making a claim design consideration, you would have an idea of what that might cost for the claim.
I don't remember, how was this handled? You said you're pretty sure that's how it used to be handled under Health First. If it was benign, they paid for it.
I think that's right, because I've had this is the first time I've had it back. I can pay for it. I don't go every time they tell me to go, well, it costs me money to go.
Yeah, and a prudent person would.
But you are kind of defeating the purpose of, we want these
Well,
people.
that's what I'm saying. It's defeating what we're trying to do.
If they get cancer, it's going to cost us a whole lot more money than paying for the colonoscopies.
Here we are encouraging people to do these pre-tests and get these things done. And I had a good friend that passed away several years ago. Had he had the colonoscopy, he'd probably be alive today, but he didn't do it.
So, I must be right, because I did find out that I didn't have to pay the second of the overnight. That's why I called you, I was kind of surprised.
Yeah, I remember. We'll check the prior claim document and see. Okay? Any questions on your routine services?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
Any
you.
other questions on your routine services? Or any other questions on the report as a whole?
You know, every now and then I've had some people come to me and I tell them to get a hold of y'all and talk with y'all about it, but they didn't get a bill paid, or they hadn't paid the bill or something like this. Is that doing better? Are you getting as many complaints as we had last year?
I haven't had hardly any phone calls lately. I know we've got a situation going on with Philip, which I don't understand why it is, with the doctor that's in, what's his name, in Greenville?
Motez, Abahar Motez.
And the reason, and I
Greenville.
don't really understand why, but it's doctors in Mount Pleasant are sending people to the hospital to get lab work done, and then the hospital is sending it to this guy in Greenville. And we thought we'd gotten his taken care of, and now it popped back up like 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
So, but we were working on it, and
Once they send it out, it's deemed to be a special case, and it's not, it's being.
because apparently they're sending everybody's.
Well,
I mean, it's not just,
and-
but apparently he's out of network. And he's, so anyway, we're working on it, and Chris has agreed to get legal involved in it, because and network, yeah.
Now, I think also we're encouraging people to get physicals this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know that was.
I always get a physical.
Our enrollment period was, besides that.
At some point within the year.
Within the calendar year. It's not, we didn't make it mandatory like we discussed.
No, it's just kind of it's more encouragement right now.
It's a long form.
Which one? Motez Abahar.
Okay, there,
What was it?
Do I have to say it again? Motez.
Oh, you don't, he's not a member of ISIS or anything like that.
Well, not
I'm not going there.
But that's the only one that I have had that I've talked to was just Philip, so.
They sent me a bill 2 or 3 times, and I turned it over, and they finally got mine.
Yeah, I mean, we've had other situations with the same doctor, but we've been able to fix them, and we thought we fixed his, and it popped back up, so we'll, you know.
Well, how do you explain this huge increase here? I mean, is there a common theme? I mean, I'm sure you'd be telling us if there was something. I know we've had several large claims. But gosh, that just seems dramatic to
We
me.
got 6 people over 65 that are still working.
Yeah, you just, unfortunately, last year, you had a spike in utilization from being a large claimant or, more outpatient services.
Was the word out that our insurance is really good and it's better accepted here locally? And man, what else do I need to get done?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything like that, but, I don't live up here, so I'm not hearing what's being said on the streets.
Well, I got to admit, that passes through my mind from time to time. You know what? I've got such good insurance, and it's accepted by everybody I use here. Wonder what I need. What do I need to do to get even healthier?
And there are some people who, when they meet their deductible, they'll be higher utilizers, especially if they meet their deductible and they're out of pocket for the remainder of the year. Everything's paid by the plan, so there is much greater chance of utilization.
And I did that. I went by deductible probably 3 years ago, and I said, I went to the dermatologist, never been before in my life, I said, okay, cut off whatever you want to, because I'm free. And that's just kind of the mentality, and
I don't know what you do about that.
You don't. You don't. Been watching your claims for 2015 and year to date, and I'm talking from January 1 through March 1st, so we're still early in March, you've had almost $500,000 in billed claims. You've paid out $172,000. So I can't gauge, because it's only two months worth of data, if that you're on trend to have another high year or not. I know Carl, working off a 10-1 through 9/30 cycle, and I'm looking at it based on your calendar year of how your benefits run. So it's hard to gauge how it's looking. I need another 2 months.
Retirement deal, if they're retired, we can drop them at 65, or they go off. But if they're still working at 65,
Well, if the benefits truly are comparable, much less better, we need to have a serious training session each year as we identify people's birthdays coming up.
Minimum, you're doing the sign up in November, December, everybody's eligible for Medicare, we need to really emphasize that.
What other groups do is when someone is turning 65, they just have to go and explain the differences and say, and I draw pictures and I say, okay, this is what you're going to be out of pocket if you stay on the group plan. And because if it's employee, it's free, but there is deductible and co-insurance and co-pays and all that stuff. If you choose Medicare A and B, there is a cost for Part B as well as a cost for the supplement. But if you choose Plan F as your supplement, and it doesn't matter who you buy it from, they don't have to buy it from us, they can buy it from anybody that sells Medicare, but a Plan F, standard Plan F, will pick up every dollar that A and B do not pay. Everything. But a lot of times, since the county's paying for all of the plan, they'll choose to stay there as opposed to go over here. But all you can do is give them the options. You can't say do it.
If people really understood the option, is there anybody that would come up with a good argument for staying on the county insurance, or is it truly better to go on Medicare and use this as a
It's
supplement?
fine if you're sick or not. Okay, if you're really sick and you're blowing by your deductible and home insurance and you're paying 100% and it's free, then, because you're gonna have to pay for Part B as well as the supplement, as well as Part D over here. So somebody that's relatively, I don't know, I mean, that's an individual's.
So we're not gonna get them all sold on switching to Medicare.
No, you're not.
Have we seen anybody switch to Medicare?
Well, in looking at your enrollment on page
If you got a relative healthy,
increase in your average age between 50 and 64, that's where your increase came in for your employees. More, 6 more people enrolled in the plan from 2013 to 2014 in that age bracket.
Or possibly at birthday.
Or, yeah, you're correct.
And I will tell you, during the enrollment, am I right about this, Chrissy? We had a lot of people that put spouse, because we ran individual quotes for folks, and when they saw how much the individual was, and then they saw how much the county's cost was, they put those spouses on the county's plan because it was much cheaper.
And you did have an increase in your enrollment for dependents, whether it be children or spouses, of 10. And again, it could be birthdays, but we had almost every age range on page 2 had 1 or 2 people enrolled.
Probably our benefit coverage is a little cheap.
Okay.
My Medicare supplement is $343 a month, plus my Part D is $51. I don't know what your premiums are, but is that dependent?
It depends upon your age and your zip code.
That's $400.
well, you can, and it comes back to what you're talking about. It's what kind of health you have, and regardless what age you are. Of course, we know the older you get, the more problems you could have. But my expenses, since I've been here, have been very little. And I might have to have bypass surgery tomorrow. I don't know, but I feel like I'm pretty healthy.
Well, there's some people who just feel more comfortable being on a group. I mean, that's what they know, and they're familiar with it, and they don't want to change. Change is hard, you know? But, you know, you just kind of have to weigh that, because I would say if a 65-year-old in Titus County, a plan that supplements $147. You know, you could buy a Part D plan for as cheap as $15, as high as $100, depending on the plan you buy. So, you know, as you age, and different plans cost different things. But as you age, the supplement cost does go up. But, you know, when you ultimately retire, that's what you're probably going to have anyway.
Do you see any opportunities, based on what you've seen here, make a little change, reap a big result? Anything?
There are some areas, so what I'd like the opportunity to do is go back and recommend, look at your plan design, and I can come up with some recommendations, see if there's some value, what value would be to the plan itself, if you make those tweaks to your plan. I don't think you have great spread between in-network and out-of-network. And there was an opportunity of a little over $500,000 that went out of network. We were still able to capture a small discount, but that's $500,000 that you could possibly have gotten a better discount at 50% versus your average of about 30%.
Well, most people, if you're going to go see who they have feel comfortable with and where they've been.
The other side of that to look at, I know we haven't been able to get the raises, and that's probably the reason we haven't done anything on the other side. We haven't raised the deductible, we haven't raised the cost of dependent coverage. So just like they said, they have two people that apparently get coverage somewhere else. They came over to the county plan. Probably our prices are cheaper than people while they were young.
Actually, it was a couple of people that had no coverage, and with the individual mandate, they knew they had to have coverage somewhere, so they asked us to quote it. And so I said, well, let me just run an individual quote, let you see. And I had a couple of people, and they were, I think, out of jail, and they said, oh my gosh, that's like $600, $700 a month, depending on the age of that dependent, as opposed to what? Yeah.
What's what a month?
That's another right.
Well, that's one of the biggest problems in our plan that I see is the cost of that dependent coverage.
And
So-
we've also had to agree that their spouses have lost their jobs and lost their insurance and had to come back on ours. So we've had some good that's tried to get on their employers' insurance, but they've had some bad luck, just have to come back with us also.
And their spouse's insurance was higher, a lot higher than ours, so that was why.
With the tax, implication, people are definitely looking at coverages, and they're wising up to cost comparisons now. Before, I don't think people understood what the premiums cost them a year versus what their deductible out of pocket was. So, I mean, and to Carl's point, there hasn't been any deductible increases for several years. That might be an area you could look at.
Well, we took one 2 years ago, then we go to 750 from 600.
That's still very
I
low.
mean, I've seen significant, but we did.
Yeah, I realize that, the cheapest claim you can buy, the cheapest deductible, I mean, it goes from $500 to $3,000 on exchange. So, I mean,
You have a $3,000.
750 is,
No, yeah, I know. I don't know anybody with less than about 3,000 to 5,000.
Oh, my God.
even increase to $1,000 per individual would be a good savings to your plan. Based on your in-network and out-of-network utilization, that's where your deductible is going to come into play. If someone's just seeing their doctor for office visits, they wouldn't get hit with that increase.
What is our average per employee now, our family, whatever? What are we accruing for?
No, we're accruing 750 per.
750 for medical and 2,500.
We're doing 750 a month
9,000 a year.
for the employee. I'm not doing anything for the benefits, just what they're paying, which is, and in my wife's case, she's paying $280 a month, which is pretty cheap.
And I've got a wife and a child, and it's like three and a quarter.
Yeah, so I mean, those are the areas obviously we need to change. The hard part about changing them is we don't get raises every year or every 2 years, so it's been a little hard to do.
Well, I agree, but these other companies, that I hear about, their coverage is continually going up. They're passing more and more of it on to the employee. I doubt if they're given raises commensurate with those adjustments in their health care.
They're probably not, but they are getting some raises.
Yeah, they are. I agree. That does offset some of it, but.
The other thing is that on the employee side, if I'm understanding the law, we can't charge the employee because we're over 100 employees.
No, you can charge them, they just can't pay more than 9.5% of their taxable income. You can charge them.
So how would I figure that, just on the lowest paid?
There's several benchmarks you can do. That's one of them, that's the easiest one.
Okay. So we could charge the employees. Again, that's hard to do when you don't give you.
Well, that wouldn't be my first area to address would be dependent coverage. That's just my personal opinion, is start tweaking the cost of that up because it's way too low. I mean, we're taking a beating on that, I bet.
The deductible.
Well, you're, on page 5 again, your high-cost claimants, out of the 10 of them, 7 of them were employees.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I do want to make you aware.
But
that-
what percentage of our total bodies covered are dependents?
Yours, about 55% are the dependents of your employees.
Really? Over half?
Well, you're better at math than I am. You got 69 dependents in your It's on page 2.
Okay,
Well,
not
69 out of 200.
third.
Third.
That doesn't include the spouse.
No,
That's all
no,
dependents. That's all spouse.
And then 3 out of 10
Worse.
So it pretty well follows,
Yeah,
not quite, but it pretty well follows.
yeah.
And
Because
yet,
you're,
we're charging an employee $750, and we're charging a spouse half that, we're charging the next dependent a fourth of that. It's just, it's out of skew. And you can't change it overnight, I understand, but it is something we ought to address a little bit each year, but it's getting out of hand.
May I just ask a question?
Sure.
Hey, like, I know on the defendant coverage we go up, I mean, personally, do you think it'd be better to raise the deductibles? Because, I mean, we don't hardly, even our defendant coverage is low, we're just a pretty healthy family, we don't hardly go, so they just predominantly their clients it. So, I mean.
That's a real fair way to do it.
Yeah.
You're only affecting the people that are.
Right, so I think using it that high as deductible is more fair to me, because, I mean, we hardly use it.
Yeah.
So I don't mind.
And yeah, those are good options that our consultant needs to give us. You know, here's the pros and cons of doing it.
Now, she said higher deductible would save us quite a bit of money, and for those that don't use the insurance, you know, and don't run out every time they stuff the toe, higher deductible is not gonna.
Why don't we run a report that shows how many people have actually met the deductible at this point, you know, and, or maybe last year, using last year as a benchmark. And then calculating if the deductible was raised, approximately how much of that would have been saved. I don't know whether it's going to be enough to make any difference.
The other thing that's important to know here is, I don't know how that compares to most businesses. 6 or 7 of those claims for people over 65. That's just what I'm for. That's just the ones that file claims.
And
You only have 100.
I do need to make you aware that there is an ongoing high claimant for this year who's already exceeded the stop loss deductible, and there's about $200,000 worth of claims that are pending because we're doing our audit of the claims before we release them. So we have one claimant that's incurring quite a bit of claims.
I guess the point is, I don't know how many people we've got that are over 65, but obviously the more older employees you have, the bigger chance you're running of having high claims.
I'm going to agree with you, ought to ask the prognosis on those high claimers.
Which we've got that, but that's, I really wouldn't want to get into all that.
It doesn't really matter. Whatever.
It really doesn't. I mean, there was,
Yeah, what do you
that
do
high
about it?
claimant, she just said that was the
Nothing.
person is an active
Okay.
employee that's over 65.
I mean, you're going to run into that when you employ older people.
And municipalities and counties tend to, their average age runs between 45 to 60. That's because your benefits and your retirement plans, that's what people are looking for while working, cities, counties, things like that.
Well, it just kind of reminds me of 2012, you know, we had several high claimants, then we had a real comfortable, easy year, and then we're back here with these multiple $100,000 plus cases. That's just the odds, maybe so.
What I have listed to, if you all want to schedule a meeting to discuss and come back, to look at changing the colonoscopy, the way that's done, to determine Medicare eligible and ways to facilitate that, out-of-network claims, dependent rates, and the possibility of, I guess, dependent rates and deductible increases, get those kind of via and/or thing. But I do think we need to discuss this after we've gone back and kind of pulled some reports to see kind of where we're headed. When do y'all want to schedule that? This is March.
We can tack that on to another end of a commissioner's court meeting.
I would say maybe May.
Sure.
To give you some idea, and then you can come back and maybe implement whatever what y'all think about it, and then is something you normally do the workshop in July. Okay. So we'll get back with you and give you a date in May to discuss these things.
You know, and is there any way to tell if any of these large claims would have been prevented if we'd have these folks have been going to the doctor or anything like that?
Case management.
That's hard to say. I can go look at case management notes to see.
Yeah, it probably is.
Yeah, see what occurred to cause that large claimant to go there. The nurses may have some information on that. They may not. I don't know, but I can definitely check into that.
Because last year, we talked about implementing a mandatory annual physical with penalties, and we decided not to do that. We would just encourage, and, you know, maybe we're still okay with that, unless we saw a situation where, man, this guy, this girl, if they'd have just gone to the doctor, we could have stopped that, but I have no idea.
You know, some of these things like the appendicitis, obviously that's very little you can do, but pancreatitis being the top two, pancreatitis and then cancer pancreas, I don't know whether that's anything that would be picked up if blood work is done. I mean, that would be the question of that's case management.
I don't know if they physically do anything.
Well, I'm just saying, if blood work would have picked up some irregularities, or I don't know, I'm not.
Can you tell if that was a dependent or a employee?
It's not claimant list, they're both employees.
On page 5, it tells you
One's a spouse and one's an employee.
the relationship code. You'll see SP is spouse, EE means employee. On page 5, under your high cost claimant detail,
Okay, SP is a
spouse.
and E is employee.
Yes.
You can get rid of these old people.
What?
You need to get rid of these old people.
You know, that's never been an obvious point that I recall in the last 4 years.
What she's saying, I don't think you're gonna have any switch.
I don't think you're going to either. But I don't think that we're seeing a pattern of 65 plus is always our biggest problem. It does appear that way this year, but I don't remember that being a constant in the past.
Unfortunately, as we get older, we're not as healthy all the time.
Yeah.
So, your population has, looking at page 2 again, your population, didn't really look at birthdays. Did they age much? Did they go into a different bracket? Not really.
I saw some were 49 years old, 2013, average age.
Average age is 45.
On the first or second page.
Yeah, your average age of your employee is 45, your average age of your dependent is 40. Compared to the UMR book of business, your average age of your employees are right to our norm. Your dependents are a little older. Your dependent ages are a little bit higher or older than the UMR book of business.
And that's really, in truth, is because that other people's insurance is going up so high. Like my wife's insurance is so high, make her a dependent on this one.
Right.
Is what's happened, I'm sure.
Jen, you didn't age much from last year to this year. You stayed fairly consistent in your age. What's unfortunate is I think that your older population got hit with some.
Have you run a deal on the older people to see what it costs per year?
Do what?
Have you run a deal on the older people to see what the cost has been on the older people compared to,
How are we going to determine what is older?
well, I'm saying 65 and older?
Right there on
Do you want to
page,
do it from 65 plus? I mean, I'm being serious, or do you want it to be 50 plus?
65 is already here,
Well-
Mike, right here.
All I've got to say is, everybody in my crew, well, except for one, is 50 plus. So, I mean, that's pretty well going to be no, Christie, not you.
Tony.
You're excluded from this.
Tony
But, I mean,
I'm sorry.
pardon me?
No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's just, it's just the way the county is. I mean, we're just getting old.
Well, I mean, look, you got 51 people that are between the age of 50
Well.
and 64. That's your biggest employee by age and gender.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, but I mean, we can run it however way you tell us to. It's just that I'm not sure exactly by running it with an age-specific criteria. I mean, because bad things can happen to.
I mean, it could go to any age group.
You know,
It could go to any age group.
I mean, once you have that information, what are you going to do with it? You're not going to implement a policy to combat
and you're not
that.
going to fire all those people. So, I mean, it's.
Well, what I'm trying to say, just because you're old doesn't mean you're always sick.
But in general, the older you are,
Well,
the more that problem.
and I will say I've been very blessed, but my doctor bill, I went to the doctor one time last year and got a physical. Here at Mount Pleasant, then I went twice to my doctor in Tyler, just every 6 months, and I've done that for years.
What'd you do in Tyler?
Had a blood work done, PSA. I don't mind telling you.
No, I'm just teasing. Well, Tony, you talked me into staying on Medicare instead of getting on anything. How'd you do that?
I mean, I
But
think
here
that it's-
again,
I think it's better coverage. I really do. I mean.
well,
You told me, and you explained it to me.
what are you gonna, all these years that the county has paid in and paid my insurance has helped pay for those that were sick. That's what it's all about. That's where you fool it.
Electing Medicare is a very subjective thing, okay? Individuals are going to perceive it as different from if we were all of the eligibility age here at the table, we would all see it different ways. But, I mean, you have to think, okay, the county's paying zero, I'm paying zero for this premium. Yeah, I've got a deductible, I pay co-pays, I've got co-insurance, whatever. And then you look over here and go, I've paid into A and B, I've got to pay for B, and now I've got to pay for a supplement as well as Part B. And we've gone around and around whether or not this is something that you want to do, but I mean, I've got some employers that you cannot pay for the supplement, but you can increase the rate of pay.
Increase the wage
You can pay a little bit more.
for on the wages for the supplement?
Yeah.
Now, my supplement's not but $70-some a month.
No, it's 147 in Titus County when you're 65. That's for the Plan F, and then your Part D's more. And you gotta have a Part D when you go off a group, or else when you do go on D, you're gonna be penalized every month you did not have Part D. These are drugs.
I don't know what that is.
Okay. Well, thank you for the info. Is there any last parting words?
Anything I need to add to this that when we come back in May to discuss?
If I think of anything, I'll let you know. I think you've got a pretty good list.
You got deductibles for the employees, deductible for dependents. You
I just
read
had
that?
deductible question.
Period, okay.
Because we'll look at
The
the.
deductibles are the same for every month.
Yeah, oh, it
The
is.
deductible is the same, but at least right now,
You would want to change the deductible between dependent and employee.
Oh, you would?
Yeah. You would not know. I wouldn't.
I've never seen that.
No, I've never seen that before. You know, your employee got one. Yeah. But colonoscopy change, the Medicare eligible question, out-of-network question, dependent rates versus deductible increases, question mark. That's the 5 things I wrote down.
Anything else?
No.
Getting hungry?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton to adjourn. Second by Commissioner Parker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.